Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Switching
Yes.
it up today.
An oldie but baddie. Let me stop. I don't have a problem. Yeah. I hadn't heard that one in a minute though. Good stuff. And the sound effects you have just heard and the voice you have just heard come from another other than one agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Gotta love it. And this here podcast you can find on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
Oh, that's fun. You could also find this podcast on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording this fine podcast every week, Thursdays, 9:30ish p.m. On the YouTube channel of the Click Nation. That's youtube.com/the Click Nation. That's the KLIQNATION, all in one word. And twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Hey, if you are so inclined, give us a follow on the Comic Book Chronicles Twitch page. And the Click Nation YouTube page also,
Remember to hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you find out whenever we are recording or whenever we post something new.
Yeah, smash that like button. Yeah. Yo, every time I say that, it's like, oh. But anyway, folks, we are here for comic books and merriment, and we are going to start off with some, let's say, spoiler-free, definitely spoiler-light, spoiler-free impressions of the recent episode of Marvel's What If on Disney Plus.
Yes, the second episode of What If dropped this week, and we are going to speak with as few spoilers as possible, but just in case you want to be completely spoiler free, here comes the spoiler bell to tell you when you need to stop listening and maybe fast forward a little bit to avoid any spoilers. In 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Hey, look, if you like last week's episode, you're going to love this one. However, this is the episode where is one of the final performances of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, Black Panther come in. This is the first one, and it's centered around T'Challa, and I said T'Challa, not Black Panther, but
Right. Well, it's not really spoiling too much because the general premise of this What If episode is, what if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? And all you have to do is transpose one character for another, and all sorts of different changes and hijinks ensue.
Right,
and that's essentially where this show decides to go. And trust me when I say this, there are some really pleasant moments. There are some really funny moments.
Right.
It was a joy to listen to Chadwick Boseman kind of embrace a different side of T'Challa, the character. And, it's a shame because this is a side of the character that you feel like maybe he might have been looking forward to exploring in live action. A little bit more of the quippiness, a little bit more of the wittiness and the banter. We got a taste of it in the Black Panther movie. Much less so obviously in his first appearance in the Civil War movie, and much less so in the Infinity War and in Endgame movies, where he basically played, he basically had brief cameo appearances. But in terms of, just having a lighthearted sense of humor and an easiness about himself, kind of letting the royal guard down, as it were.
Right.
It was refreshing to hear, and you could really sense that he was having a lot of fun playing this particular role with this, with this characterization. So, I mean, that was the big thing that I took from it. How about you?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, and like Age of 70 said, the premise of it is like, hey, you have the event that happens in the character's life, but what if it goes differently? In this case, it's kind of two different characters. So it is definitely, well, two different characters in a sense, 'cause especially with what happens at the end. Um, but you basically put this character in another situation where they didn't actually go in the main universe. And yeah, so this is, as you sort of said, is a more lighthearted version, because he didn't go through the same events that he would have gone through had his life played out the same as what we know it to be, even in the MCU. That led up to him being a more serious character in the live action movies. So
Right.
without
And
that, he goes
what
kind
was
of another
great,
avenue.
yeah, exactly. There's a couple of really great interactions and scenes throughout this.
Mhm.
It was really great overall, but there's a couple of really noteworthy interactions. The first one is so early, and it's between Kraglin, Taserface,
Mhm.
and Yondu when they're dealing with with the results of their botched mission, let's say.
Right.
And I thought that was hysterical.
Right. I would argue it goes further before that one. The one between T'Challa, and actually, I feel compelled to call him Star T'Challa, because I know I've seen that
Yeah.
kind of floating around a couple of times, couple of places. But between T'Challa and Korath,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that
Oh
one
yeah.
right
I
there.
mean, we actually brought that up earlier.
Yes.
So, but talk
Uh,
about we were just joking earlier about trying to remember how things play out in sequence,
mhm.
and there's a reason why we actually pulled up some notes so that we could remind ourselves when these things happen, because we did, even though we watched these relatively recently, it feels like forever ago in the in the way that we view time nowadays.
Yeah, kind of, exactly, because we record this on a Thursday, it comes out on a Wednesday, and we watched it, but it was a day ago in a recording time.
Exactly.
Um,
Like I literally watched this over breakfast on Wednesday,
I think I
so
watched
it's
it.
been a while.
Yeah, I think I watched it like probably 5 o'clock in the morning, something like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
So it's been a while for me. So yeah, that's
yeah,
correct.
me too.
It does open with it does open with a callback to the opening of the first Guardians movie.
Right, without dance number, obviously, but well, not even obviously,
Right.
but it kind of cuts out some of the stuff that we see Star Lord goes through in the very beginning of the first Guardians movie, but kind of
Exactly.
gets straight to the point of the heist, or the Infinity Stone heist.
Right. And it's not even spoiling anything in the show about the plot.
Right.
There is what I felt was a callback to a scene in Coming to America, and Roddykat is inclined to agree.
Kind of, yeah,
And when
but
you see
also
it, it's
but also
pretty
Black Panther,
pretty music.
right? But also Black Panther, because there was definitely a similar scene to where uh, that a similar thing happened, or a similar conversation happened about the bowing.
Oh yeah. Oh, wasn't that in
Not No, wait,
Civil?
was it? It wasn't
That
Black
was in
Panther. It was
Infinity War.
Infinity War. Yes, 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 yes.
That was Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my comparison still applies,
Yes.
because you just have to think back to the scene in Madison Square Garden where they're watching a Knicks game, and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
All
from Coming to America, but yeah, but definitely the Infinity War one
right.
is the more
Exactly.
is
So
just as
uh,
one.
yeah, there's a couple of really interesting twists and turns that the story takes because of the transposition between Peter Quill and T'Challa in the story, and there's a couple of really shocking ones. We won't spoil what they are, but when you see them unfold on screen, you will be shocked. You might be startled.
Right. Yeah, but it plays out so well. And I know, actually, I didn't get to talk to about this at the beginning, but I believe we talked about this last week, where it seemed as though the dialogue was kind of going a little bit fast in the first one, and you still kind of get some of that, a little bit of that here. It might be a little less noticeable, but I think that's just a pacing thing because of animation and them trying to get a lot more in, trying to pack a lot more in. So to move the dialogue and stuff on, they kind of go a little. It seems like it goes a little
Speed
bit
up the
faster.
speech.
Right.
Yeah, speed up the speech just a touch.
Yeah. So I think that was a choice because of that, and less so that, because like I said, it was a thing like Captain Marvel, the Captain Marvel movie did that, and it felt like they were just kind of rushing through the dialogue, especially with Brie Larson's character.
Mm.
Well, with this character, she was Captain Marvel. Duh. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. But I think this might have been indicative of just like, no, that's just like, we're just trying to get through the dialogue and pacing it with the animation and kind of keeping it moving.
Right. So
I feel like,
I think without going into the details,
yeah,
the one other thing that that I noticed and made a mental note about is how the after effects, the extended ramifications of this particular transposition also leads to the not the omission, but knowing that different things happen to characters that we knew to be a part of the Guardians in the regular MCU Guardians version, where in this case what we have is certain characters do not come together right away because of T'Challa being put into Peter Quill's place.
right.
We don't see a number of Guardians characters pop up in the story because of that.
Right, or the ones that do in the same way that they showed up in the original Guardians show.
Right.
Hey,
But right, but my point being that we actually don't see them at all.
right.
Like not even a reference to them.
No,
And
you're right.
that's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes you wonder. And if I'm not mistaken, we already have confirmation that there's going to be a season 2. So
That might be. I think that's true. I haven't seen it, but that's probably true.
I'm pretty sure there's already been confirmation of season 2, if not implied confirmation.
Which good,
And,
because like we said in the last week's one, like there's more they could do in and or outside of the MCU with the what if.
right. And so it'll be interesting to see, and obviously it'll be without the voice talents of Chadwick Boseman, but it'll be interesting to see where they take these characters in this T'Challa Lord or Star T'Challa version of character, where they take this particular cosmic story, if they decide to go further, and as I said earlier, weave in the characters weave in the characters that we saw were actually left out of the story.
Right. Right. And even with this particular episode, like I feel like at the end, when they referenced another character who would originally have been in this, I feel like they may come back to that for and maybe sometime this season or maybe next season. Because they did even say it was like, oh, that's a story for another time, which is what I've been hearing that a lot lately. I'm sitting like, huh, okay. um, so maybe we'll even get to see what happened with that. Because obviously, if T'Challa was the one that was taken, and you're like, well, what happened to this other character? Who would be in that place?
We get a big hint at the end of the episode, though.
Exactly.
And that could lead, and as Roddykat was implying, that could lead into an entirely new storyline.
Mm-hmm. or maybe play in some something later on in this season or whatever it may be. We don't know. And I know they did say that supposedly they're trying to set up a multiversal Avengers with this what if story. So I assume that's going to be the thing for this season, and going in, I would assume then going into next season, maybe like it'll be like an exiles type situation, maybe. We don't know. Um, but I feel like Marvel has said that that's kind of a thing that they're trying to set up with this, and it is connected to the actual MCU. So we will see how that plays off as the season goes on. That being said, though, like I said, it was just to close it out. It was really good. It was also kind of touching. It also, like, especially with the whole T'Challa in space thing, you could kind of, and not necessarily, it wasn't a direct reference to the recent comic book, but you can kind of make you can kind of make a connection to it because of the fact there was T'Challa in space. Um, and I feel like we know Chadwick Boseman's voice work was done like a while ago before he passed, and so a lot of that was already set in stone. But I feel like there was probably I kind of wonder if there was some kind of rewrites with the other character to kind of make certain statements to make this more of a tribute to him, or or not. I can't say whether that's the case or not, but regardless, there was definitely a vibe there about it throughout this whole thing. That could have already been there, regardless of whether he had passed or not, with what happens. Um, but I will go ahead and say that at the end of it, you do say a CA dedicated to Chadwick Boseman. So I know a lot of people are kind of, it's kind of it was kind of sad going into this, and was kind of intrepid, kind of leery about going into this because there's still, it Chadwick's death hit a lot of people very hard. Hit a lot of us very, very hard, and it's kind of hard for people to be like, oh, to go into this knowing that he's passed, and there's still stuff coming out for him. So if you're one of those people, you can go into it. Like I've even seen somebody that was like, yeah, they watched the first couple of minutes, was like, yeah, I don't do it. They don't know if they could sit through it because of that. I don't know if
Oh,
they
it
did,
was
didn't it?
it was supremely sad. I got sad. I didn't need. There's a tribute at the end of the
Yes,
episode. I didn't need that to
those
make
was
me sad. Or just hearing him speak
right,
got me right away. I mean, I was able to listen to it because of the lighthearted nature of his dialogue.
right,
Just to hear him have fun with this character in this regard, in this setting was a treat.
right, exactly. And that was kind of my thing of it, because like, yes, I was sad about his death, and it didn't hit me. Well, it hit me hard enough, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? There's still we still have more out there, and there's like we said earlier, a couple more things that are coming out with him, even after his passing, that we get to see him in. So we get to have him for a little bit longer, and that. So if you think about it that way, it's not as bad, you know. Um, and of course, there's always the Black Panther and the stuff that he's already done that you can kind of go back to for that. But I also understand that, like, yeah, it hit a lot of people real hard, so it would be hard to kind of go into this episode. But I felt like it was a good celebration of both he and the character and throughout this whole episode. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next couple of I guess it's sad that it will be really sad. It's just like once we get to the very last one that he did, that'll be sad because, like, yeah, we're probably not gonna get any more. Or, well, we're not gonna get any more, but that situation. But like I said, it was I took it as kind of a celebration of what we already have, what we got, and what we're getting from him, even in his passing. That being said, unless you got something else in a
No,
final
I'm
note.
good.
So yeah, so that was What If episode 2. Like I said, every Wednesday they come out, and look forward to another thing next weekend, next week when we talk. Uh, we're gonna move on to books, and I believe we said we were going to. Thank you. Well, we're going to start off with Sinister War #3.
All righty. Sinister War #3 is the penultimate episode of this uh, odd story by Nick Spencer, written by Nick Spencer and Ed Brisson, penciled by Mark Bagley, Carlos Gomez, and Zay Carlos, with inks by Andrew Hennessy, Andy Owens, John Dell, and Carlos Gomez, and Zay Carlos. Colors are by Brian Reber and Andrew Crossley, and letters are by Visual Calligraphy's own Joe Caramagna, our favorite paisan. So, the bottom line is the various iterations of the uh, Sinister Six and variations thereof have converged upon Spidey at the behest of Kindred. Kindred is basically promising that he's going to have them all cursed if they don't hunt down and kill Spider-Man, and they all end up getting in each other's way. Um, uh, a major villain who had been resurrected specifically during the Kindred storyline makes yet another reappearance, and we get a tiny little bit of redemption for Nick Spencer's favorite supervillain slash almost anti-hero.
Yes. Yes. Because
And
he's
ultimately, right. And ultimately at the end, it looks like we are speeding towards uh, a conclusion to the story.
well. I wish I had the faith in you in that one, but yeah, we definitely get into it because as we have said before, there's been kind of going on for a while. Like this particular arc in this overarching thing that Nick Spencer is doing has been going on just a bit. This one is still no exception. Like this is for I believe Agent 70 said earlier, like this is him just piling on more people into the
Yes.
mix. So yeah, the fact that we got a recurrence of this one, actually a few characters, along with that character. Now that I think about it, um, just happened to reappear back in the story. It's like, do we really need another group to like he already had it was beset by a whole bunch of folks already. Did we need another group to come into this? But I guess like I said, this is Kendra's whole plot to like really pile it on to old Spidey and get into it. And yeah, I guess we are getting closer than we were to the end of this thing.
I said speeding firmly tongue in cheek
Yeah.
because ultimately you can see the characters that Spencer has chosen to focus upon and has chosen to try to develop over the course of his run. One of them being the new Beetle, another being Mysterio, obviously, another being Boomerang, because Boomerang is the star of the freaking show, not Peter Parker. And that's these are the characters that he's chosen to focus upon, and that's who we're getting right at the end of this issue. And we're getting a little bit of a focus on them, and we're going to see what role they play in the next issue. And I believe Amazing has 2 issues left, or 3 issues left, 72, 73, and 74, before we get to 75, rolling into the new run.
Correct.
So
there's
right. Not much Spencer Spider-Man left before we roll into the new status quo, but we're going to see Spencer develop this story and leave Peter Parker in a place where that new Spidey creative group, it's not even a team, that group is going to take the concept, maybe not the character.
Right. The but as many side issues in this one and this Sinister War thing, like I'm pretty sure they could have made 450 easily if they had put it into the main book, especially as for as often as Amazing has been coming out. But you know,
Right. And bear in mind, as soon as the Beyond Corporation storyline starts after 75, Amazing Spidey is going to go to 3 times a month.
yes. So if you haven't had enough Spidey, as it were, then hey, buckle up, folks. And it's not even
I
going to be
mean,
Peter. So
yeah, what I was going to say is it's a way for them to cram in that story before they bring Peter back.
yeah, yeah, this is true.
These are the old heads talking, young folks.
Exactly. And we've been through a glut of Spider-Man back in the late 80s, early 90s, so we know we've been here before. Like,
Right. I mean, even during Brand New Day, they were doing weekly, and then they had to scale it back because it was just too much. And at least we didn't have a character change other than a status change. So ultimately, I was willing to ride through that. I still have most of those books, if not all of them, during Brand New Day. I don't think I'm going to jump on right away with this Beyond Corporation stuff. We'll be reading it, of course, for the show. But in terms of my personal collection, we'll see.
right. Like, folks, we had at least Spidey books. Some of you might know 3 to 5 Spidey books a month back in the day.
Oh, I mean, if Roddykat is specifically referring to the titles across the line, not just amazing.
Right. Like,
Spectacular.
I'm talking back in the day.
Yeah. The Spectacular, Web, Marvel Team Up to a certain extent.
Yes.
Um,
Webtoons.
and then obviously there have been other shorter run titles like not Spectacular, but like
No, like it was amazing.
Friendly Neighborhood,
right?
And Peter Parker Spectacular, as opposed to just Spectacular,
I think
and
that was later, but
so on and so forth. So
right, because we had Amazing, Spectacular, and then Web all at the same time, and
right,
and like
that was the
said,
first run. Right, that was the first kind of big Spidey group. But it was originally, I think, Amazing, Marvel Team Up, and Spectacular. Those were like the first 3 kind of Spidey titles that were put together. Team Up went away, but then Web kind of came in as another Spidey title.
Right, and I believe that was around the time of Kraven's Last Hunt.
No, it was before that because Web came in. Web came in right after Secret Wars because of the black costume.
Okay, because I could have sworn, because I know, but Kraven's Last Hunt did run through Web.
Yes, but Web existed before, well before that. Like it had a decent run before that. That's my point.
Okay, I guess. Yeah. Hey.
Just it's just a matter of it's just a matter of putting it into the proper timeline. Sure. I remember Web starting up after Secret Wars. So
yeah, hey, a lot of books, folks, and a lot of time.
Yeah,
we're old.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of us,
we could do a whole show.
Honestly,
we could do an evergreen show on the evolution of the Spidey line.
Oh God.
We could.
We could. You're right. Very much could.
We could do a series of shows on it.
Yeah, that's true. But that being said, folks, like I said, say all that to say that we're no strangers to them having a lot of Spidey in a month's time, much less
a single title.
Exactly. So, yeah. Well, this is where we are back again. So, we're going to move on because that's pretty much it. We actually went longer on that one than honestly was probably next. Yeah, that and what was actually necessary for that issue, honestly. Given what was in it. So let's go on into a related character, who actually shows up in kind of shows up in the book. Black Cat number 9.
Black Cat number 9 is written by Jed MacKay with art by C.F. Villa, colors by Brian Reber, and letters by Ferran Delgado. It is nice to see this creative team stick together. And take it away, Roddykat.
So, basically, I have not been reading the Infinite Destinies annuals that have been coming out. In fact, one came out this week, which Agent 70 will get to one later on. But this issue kind of feels like Okay, like they're sticking her with it because she even in one of those annuals was actually hers. So she's got another big score going on, and it's just as big as stuff. And that I don't remember her explanation when she was explaining to Star, who shows up in this book. So it's no spoiler because she's on the cover. Um, her or at least what she wanted Star to know about her plans and who she was working with. I don't remember the person she was talking about being involved with this, or if that was part of the ruse or not.
It's hard to say at this point
Right.
because we'll see how this plays out. Because what we've grown accustomed to with McKay's runs on Black Cat, but we'll consider it one extended run over a couple of volumes of Black
Yes.
Cat. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what we've become accustomed to is Felicia Hardy running a scam slash caper, and these are multi-leveled, multi-layered plans, and we don't necessarily know how everything fits together until the end. And sometimes things go awry, and Felicia has to adapt and overcome and be really flexible if as things start to blow up around her.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, at the end of the last issue, we find that she is breaking Star out of some forced captivity that Nick Fury Jr. put her in to get a plan in motion to deal with. And this is broad strokes. This is not necessarily the biggest spoiler because this has been revealed in solicitations and in other books that there are humans who have been who have become hosts to the Infinity Gems slash stones and become bonded to them. One of them being Star, who is joined with the reality gem. And in this case, Felicia breaks her out of this captivity, more than likely with, I wanted to say Sam Jackson, more than likely with Nick Fury Jr.'s permission to get this party started and try to find some of the other um, wielders slash possessors slash beings who are in possession who are conjoined with these infinity gems slash stones. Forgive me, folks, I still have problems calling them infinity stones when we're talking about comics.
Yes, because we know them as
Well,
gems.
right. And so what we know is Felicia has to do a lot of convincing because she is not uh, anywhere close to Star's power level, and she has to do some convincing in this issue to try to get Star to follow along. Maybe not necessarily. Maybe comply is the best word because she's not exactly following everything that Felicia wants her to do, but at least get her to comply with the general idea of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And this issue also features Felicia going after a second Mark, as it were, who is what is this guy's code name?
Is it Overdrive? Not Overdrive. Overdrive is the Spider.
Overtime?
Overtime. Yes,
Is it Overtime?
I believe it is. Yeah. Yeah. As a
Yeah,
matter of
it's
fact, it is
overtime.
overtime. Yes, it is overtime.
Right. It's Overtime because it's sudden death. Ha ha, very funny. And um and this is the gentleman who has been connected to or linked with the time gem stone.
Right. And
And
again, as before, I just have to go on. Like this, the reason why I mentioned Infinite Destiny is because these folks shown up in there, and that is still an ongoing arc event, whatever you want to call it, going on right now.
right. Interestingly, I'll tell you, and this is not a spoiler for the Miles Morales Spider-Man annual, but the Infinite Destiny stories in those annuals are legitimate backup stories. They
Mm-hmm.
are not front and center. They often do not interact at all with the main story in the annual.
Oh, the Nick Fury one.
Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff is going to culminate in a big, giant-sized black cat that I believe was announced in today's or this or for the roughly final, not final, but the roughly final solicitations for Marvel for November 2021.
I believe it is final, yeah. And that makes more sense given because I who have not been reading those, knowing that she was a part of that. I was like, okay, that seems kind of weird that one, those are going on, and two, she's a part of it. But now that the fact that that's been folded into this, it makes more sense now. It makes a little bit more sense now that if it's going to come out, culminate into that, it's like, okay, sure, because we knew she had a big score to going on and is involving these people, and now whether the other people that are involved that have been involved with the Infinite Destinies, these I feel like calling them one shots is probably just as legit than the annuals. But most of those people will come back together for this. Then I guess we'll see. And actually, I need to catch up on those just to see what's going on with them. And even with Star herself, like I know of the character, I don't know that much about her. I didn't even know she was modded to the Reality Stone and gem until this thing. Because like the last couple of times she's shown up, I have not read, including the Captain Marvel, the Spider-Man
King in Black
annual,
stuff.
or her own miniseries.
Right, or the King in Black stuff too,
Right.
because she did show up in that. So, okay.
So, but yeah, but this again, Black Cat is as fun of an issue. Now, I guess the one thing, last thing I'll say in passing on this one's like, it's kind of funny because you don't normally see Felicia pull the same ruse twice during the course of this thing, and the fact that she did it twice in one issue, or she's trying to twice in one issue, is kind of amusing to me. Whether it plays out the same, we don't know, because like I said, we never saw we don't see obviously how it plays out, because it kind of starts up just like he did last issue with Star. So
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
always fun. But
Definitely,
regardless, I say that to say
an
it's fun.
approach. Right. It's definitely an approach that she talks about in the story, though.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to someone of her power level having to deal with someone on a much, much higher power level.
Right. Like she changed some different things going into the second time she pulled it, but the same rules are still going on. So
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
same premise. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely the same premise. Okay.
But yeah, Black
So,
Cat's still fun. So
yeah, President Bartlett.
What's next?
you pick a book.
Yeah, we read a lot this week. So how about I pick another thing that we read in common, and then maybe soon we'll get to rapid fire because we got a lot to go through.
Yep.
How about Kang the Conqueror #1? How's that?
Oh yeah, this will be easy to get through.
All right. So this is written by former guests of the Comic Book Chronicles, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. Art is by Carlos Magno, who we last saw, I believe, on The Invaders, but I think there was something after that too. Colors are by Espen Grundetjern, and letters are by Visual Calligraphies, our favorite paisan, Joe Caramagna.
So the long and the short of this one is, now we know Kang the Conqueror has had a recent turn in the Loki series. We know he's going to show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's very easy to say that this is why he's got this book right now, to kind of catch people up on the fact that, hey, he exists, and give a little backstory on his character. And this is kind of what we get here. As I say in my notes, which might actually end up being the title of this episode, Back Down Memory Kang, because we see we see a young Nathaniel Richards who's narrating this get met up by an already version of Kang, who essentially, so. And I'm happy for this, because now that Agent 70 can get this reference, he basically was taken to get trained like Piccolo did Gohan in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z.
In a sense.
In a sense, yes.
In a sense, because it's not exactly a 1-to-1, but I understand.
No. Yeah, but it is kind of like that, and I don't know if that was intentional or maybe that's just me projecting it. But regardless, it feels that was for that. Now, to what end outside of, that for the readers, we do not know. We do know how many issues this is? Is it 4?
I'm sorry?
Do we know how many issues this is? This is going to be?
Is an excellent question. I
I
did
don't-
not make note of it.
Yeah, because I don't think I saw of what for this. And sometimes they do that, even though we know it's going to be is a thing. So that's
Right. I want to say it's a 5-issue series,
well.
but I'm going off of a distant memory at this point.
Yeah, it looks like 1 of 5 according to Comic
There
Book.
it is. See, our memory is not that bad, folks.
Well, normally, yeah, and
Normally it is. That's what Roddykat's trying to say.
exactly,
Normally
there is, but sometimes there have been like 4 or 3, so depending on what it is. I feel like this. I don't know. At this point, I feel like 4 would probably serve it, but we don't know where it's going. So
right. So yeah, I am going to note in my notes that it is 1 of 5. Okay. All right.
But there is but we basically see like a retelling of Kang's or a part of Kang's backstory, and this is going to be a trip down his backstory for the most part, especially given going into the next issue. Not surprised, like I said, because I feel like this is mainly in service of catching people up who don't know, newer Marvel readers of Kang who may probably just know Kang of more recent shows in the comics and or the MCU stuff that they're setting up for now.
Honestly, I think this is for everyone to try to set everyone on the same give everyone the same amount of knowledge, because there is a ton of Kang stuff in the Marvel comic book universe,
Sure.
the 616, that is disparate, scattered, and far apart in time.
So you're saying they're trying to solidify him?
What's that?
So you're saying they're trying to solidify his backstory a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To try to make it, to try to put it into one neat package so that everyone can go off of the same information, because we all know that the Kang story has been adjusted here and tweaked there. Everything from him being a descendant of either Reed Richards or Doctor Doom, we find out here we actually are getting somewhat of a definitive answer.
Yes.
Here in this first issue to that question. We also will be seeing one version of Kang definitely in the next issue, as we see in the cliffhanger at the on the cliffhanger page at the end of this issue. We're also likely to see, since we're getting a young Kang, at some point we may absolutely see Iron Lad in Young Avengers. We'll maybe get to that point in this story, because that's what this reminded me of when we're dealing with like a future Kang going back to try to change things or do things in the past.
Yeah, it feels like they're definitely set under the fact that we're going through the major parts of Kang's backstory. Like we've already got his Nathaniel Richards. Technically, this is a different Kang than the beginning of this, I guess, if what happens in the in the midst of the story is to be, but we know also there are various bunches of stories, bunches of versions of Kang anyway. So the relevancy there is whatever. But yeah, we're definitely going through the major parts of Kang's history and his different iterations. Yeah, I thought about the Iron Lad thing also because of that. Like, yeah, it's quite possible that we're going to see something on that. Which is also could be a thing they could be setting up for. I mean, not within this, but
they'll be using this to set that up.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the MCU.
Yes, to set that up in the MCU, because you want something scary before we move on, because you covered this issue. I don't have too much to add to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you, because I pulled up the first appearance of the Young Avengers on my iPad through handy dandy Marvel Unlimited, who is not a sponsor of our show, but we like to talk about it because it is a big useful tool.
It is a handy resource.
Do you know what year this was released?
What's that?
2005.
Yeah, that checks out.
Damn, that's a long time ago, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, And wait, who was the creative team on that?
Jim Heinberg on scripts and Jim Chung on art.
And that was the Young Avengers.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that joint. Like, I'm like, okay, this is, let's see what this is about. And yeah, I remember a lot of that. And that, I think that was, that was going into children's story, or children's crusade, and all that kind of stuff. Which I still, man, if we had an evergreen episode to go through, that would probably be one at some point.
Yeah. What did I say his first name was? It's Alan Heinberg. I don't want to misstate. If I said Jim, I'm it's Jim Chung as on art, and he's a co-creator and the penciler, but it's Alan Heinberg as the writer.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Regardless, yeah, we got it. It's all good.
It's definitely, I look back on this now, I'm like, yeah, we're actually updating Kang's origin and as you said, unifying things and solidifying it for future reference, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and current reference.
Mm-hmm.
In that. And actually, I totally forgot to put up the thing. So we're going to put up here Kang the Conqueror's covers, but we're going to go swiftly on to the next book. In fact, I guess we can go on to rapid fire at this point, unless you got something you really, really want to pop out there.
No, I'm good. We can move on.
All right, rapid fire.
What's next?
Oh, we're rapid fire. We're going to spit it up.
Sure.
All right, sounds good to me.
I ain't got time to move.
Yeah, we both got a few, and we've still have a couple in common. So I'm gonna let you kind of lead the way, and I'll chime in whenever.
Okay, so I will start with my first book. It's called Italrich, not the Aerosmith song from 1993, but in fact, the title of a new limited series, a 5-issue limited series from Boom Studios. It's written by Sarah Gailey with art by Pius Bach. That is, believe it or not, a Lithuanian name. Colors are by Roman Titov. I think it's Titov, actually. There was a hockey player named Herman Titov or German Titov. So I think it's Roman Titov. And letters are by Cardinal Ray. So the premise of the story really rang a bell, really, hit me a little close to home, because it's about a couple who are going back to visit the young man's family. It's the young lady who is our point of view character, and this couple is going home after I presume a spring semester of law school. They had to get through. I don't know if they're ready to graduate. It seems like they're just finishing their second year because they're not studying to take the bar just yet, and they're going back to meet the young man's parents, and his family is wealthy, and this young lady is not, and she is worried about how she's going to fit in, and she talks about how she's had to learn how to get in and try to talk and hobnob and socialize, and that awful word network amongst people who are living in a much different world than she and her family live in. And everything from summer parties to having help in the home and having palatial estates. And there is obviously a very big secret that is hinted at in the title of this story. There are some really great horror beats that the creative team puts in, that all of this is included, talking about the writing and the art and the colors and even the lettering. There are a lot of great ways that these different aspects of the story integrate and set a great horror scene and allow this horror story to unfold. So this is a really it was a gripping story. I kind of got a kick out of it because it did, as I said earlier, it did hit me a little close to home. as someone who's had to try to at least mingle with people who just live in a different world, especially here in New York City. So it was a very interesting read, and it's not a click of the week, but definitely something I'll recommend.
Interesting.
Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy. It's written by Al Ewing with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So we are neck deep in this latest cosmic battle that is now called The Last Annihilation. And we have this story, obviously, from the Guardians of the Galaxy's perspective, as multiple fronts in this war with Dormammu and the Dark Dimension have popped up all across the universe, or at least this galaxy. And we see the Guardians, along with Dr. Victor Von Doom, put together a logical, or at least plausible, explanation for what Dormammu is up to. And it turns out Dormammu is multiple steps ahead of the Guardians as they're looking to try to thwart Dormammu. Dormammu's already cut them off, beat them to the pass almost at every turn. And we also find out that Doctor Doom can't help but be Doctor Doom.
Of course. Always got his contingencies and his own plans here. I was going to make
his own intentions.
Right. I was going to make a Dormammu was ahead of the game joke, but you kind of beat me to it. What you just said, especially given with what happens at the end of this issue.
Exactly. So ultimately, what we get is okay.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what we get is at the end of this a pretty interesting cliffhanger reveal, and we also have apparently the reappearance of one Nathan Dayspring Summers, whose reappearance in the Marvel universe proper, outside of Krakoa, outside of his most recent series in Krakoa that was based on Krakoa. He's going to make his big appearance in this storyline in the next chapter of the storyline coming out next week.
Right. It's specifically a more classic version, because as we've seen with the most recent issue of Cable, like old Cable is basically back in play. Right. So yeah, we'll see.
But wielding the light of Galador.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just gonna tease the people who love the Space Knights.
Yeah, I meant to ask you how you felt about that last issue of Cable coming out of that part.
It's an awful tease. An awful tease, but at the same time, I understand, because that's the extent of what they can do with the proprietary intellectual property that they have.
Right.
They can talk about Galador, they can't talk about a specific Space Knight.
But they damn sure did. They damn sure did tease, as you say, because that one Space Knight that did show up was very reminiscent of the classic one.
Exactly. All right, next up, speaking of an armored character, Iron Man number 11, written by Christopher Cantwell, not the one that Roddykat dislikes, but the one that does popular culture things. Art by Angel. I left out a letter in my typing here. Art by Angel Unzueta. Colors are by Frank Darmada. And letters, again, by our favorite paisan from visual calligraphy, Joe Caramagna. He's a busy dude, this guy. So we find out, and Roddykat mentioned this earlier, so we have to give him credit, that this entire side mission that Tony Stark has been on has been what Dragon Ball fans will understand to be a filler story arc. It is a side mission in the truest sense, where Iron Man is basically transported away from the mission that he was on to try to head Korvac off at the pass before they get to Ta-2, Galactus's world ship. He is spirited away from that group. No real reference to the Spirited Away
The
movie,
Miyazaki movie.
but
Yes.
but ultimately what we have is this side quest with Stiltman of all people, who is in essence what we find out over the course of several issues. This is not a 1 or 2 issue story. This is a several issue story.
It's like 4.
I think this is yeah, I was about
Like
to say
3 or
it's
4.
4.
Yeah.
4 is a lot for a small for a side story. It's not like a 3-story it's not a 3-issue story. It's a 4-issue story. And we see Iron Man see through the scheme and the plans that Stiltman had laid out to try to make himself out to be the big hero. And ultimately at the end of this we get, I forget the term for this. We get the appearance of a Marvel, not a familiar, not an elemental, but like an abstract. I think it's an abstract.
Sure.
It's an abstract entity.
One of which I could have sworn this entity was whatever passes for deceased for those cosmically powered folks.
I don't remember. Roddykat could very well be right, but we do get the appearance of this cosmic abstract. I'm not 100% sure what the correct term is, but I think that's what it is for for a being of this power level and magnitude, and kind of playing the role of the Watcher. Being the Deus ex machina to get the story moving along, because we have to get a way to put Iron Man back into the fight, and magically he's back in the fight at the end of the story.
Well, not even back in the fight, but pretty much in the fight by himself, because basically during
he's actually ahead. He may be ahead of the fight.
He is very much ahead of the fight, right? Because what I was about to say was like, so Iron Man had a team of folks that went out in space to follow Korvac, who was headed to Ta-2, Galactus's home ship, to get whatever Korvac was going to get. The team was kind of already pretty much there. Like they got him spotted, and actually no, they got there before Korvac. Now that I think about it, sounds like, and in this, Tony gets wind of that through Patsy Walker, Hellcat, and of course he has feelings about that because it's and like Agent 70 said, yeah, he at the end of he gets magically ordered, and before them, or ahead of them even, in that part, and therein getting back into the main part of the story, and ending this filler arc. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of this. Like we're finally back into the main part of this this joint. And we'll see where it goes after this one.
Okay, moving on. Next up is Marauders number 23, with art it's written by Jerry Duggan, I'm sorry, with art by Ivan Fiorelli. Oh geez, Fiorelli. Oh, my typing put a U in here that did not belong. It's a much more simple Fiorelli. Colors by Rain Barreto and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is the fallout from events of the Hellfire Gala, specifically things that we saw at the tail end of that Hellfire Gala wrap up. The Marauder has been wrecked, so shipments of Krakoan medicines have been stymied and limited, and so the prices for what is in stock around the world in the Krakoan warehouses have gone up, And of course, the criminal element has decided to try to pounce on these storehouses, on these warehouses storing valuable Krakoan medicines. Um, what's interesting about this is we get the appearance of several newer or different characters, let's say different characters, to the pages of this book that we have not seen previously associated with the Marauders.
Right.
Namely, Sean Cassidy, aka Banshee, who is thankfully resurrected. I'm glad to see Banshee flying around in the land of the living, as opposed to being kind of a walking zombie, as they've often treated him since he got killed off.
Yeah, that was a weird
Uh,
choice.
you know, in the mid 2000s, I think, the mid aughts. I think he's been gone for a while.
Yeah.
So, but they were bringing him back as like a zombie at one point. But we get Emma Frost leading, not leading, because I think the leader of this Marauder group is in fact the Red Queen, aka Kate Pryde, with Lockheed in tow. But we also get Tempo and
Jumbo Carnation.
Yes, Jumbo Carnation. I was going to say the fashion guy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely a ragtag group of mutants who are front and center in this Marauders book as they deal with the riffraff who are trying to make off with or destroy the Krakoan medicines and of course, because it's Banshee, it has to be an Irish warehouse, a warehouse located in Ireland.
Right, because Banshee was the one who called in Emma. Were you aware of Banshee and Emma's familiarity with each other before now?
Generation X.
Oh, that would explain that, because I don't think I've ever read that.
Generation X. They were co-headmasters of the Xavier. What was it? Was it the Xavier Institute? I think it was the Xavier Institute.
Gotcha.
When in that spin-off in the early 90s with Generation X, when they sent Jubilee off to go to school, and that's where they introduced Sync and M and Skin and that whole group.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they were co-headmasters of the school, so they definitely are on familiar, if not friendly terms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and lastly, we get the comeuppance of that little side story with the Cuckoos and one of the members of the Hominis Verendi.
Yeah.
So we get some closure to that particular story.
Cool.
And that's where we end with that. Next, do you have anything else to add on that?
Nope.
All right, next up is Miles Morales Spider-Man Annual number 1. It's written by Saladin Ahmed with art by Luca Maresca. Colors are by Fernando Cifuentes of Proto Bunker. And letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is a nice little kind of one-off story that explains a lot more of Amulet's backstory. We don't get a lot of that in the pages of Miss Marvel. He has appeared a few times in the pages of Miss Marvel, but in essence, we get a bit more fleshing out of his backstory and origin in the pages of this annual. He and Spidey team up to take down some more of these magic-based demons that are basically part of Amulet's origin. It is not a story that's concluded here in a sense, because the threat is ongoing. So, it's not like they solve Amulet's problem here in the story. It's still going to be ongoing. So we're going to see him pop up to deal with this going forward, more than likely in the pages of Miss Marvel. There is no, what I was going to say is there is no connection to the Infinity Stones or this Infinite Destinies crossover in this story.
Which is weird considering it has the banner on top.
That's where the backup story comes in. As I said earlier, when we were
Mm.
talking about Black Cat, the backup stories in these annuals that are labeled that are labeled with that banner Infinite Destinies are the tie-in story. And it's these backup stories that involve without spoiling it for Roddykat, because I know he wants to try to catch up, there is someone who is looking to gather a source of power or sources of power to try to recreate a reality that he feels was robbed, that he was robbed of, or was taken from him.
Oh, that old chestnut.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that's the impetus behind part of this Infinite Destiny story.
Gotcha. So the only thing I have to say about this is like, so Amulet is a Saladin Ahmed creation, so no surprise that he's showing up here. It is slightly a surprise to me that we're getting a little bit more backstory here as opposed to Miss Marvel, but we also know Miss Marvel does not have a book out just yet. In fact, as we found out last week, it has been delayed a couple of months. So not surprising that it showed up, and it's good to see this character showing up in other places. But it's also, like I said, it is his creation. So, or part of his creation, because I can't remember who also created this character with him. But that's all.
There it is. All right. Next up is, did you read Moon Knight #2?
I did.
Moon Knight #2 is written by Jed McKay with art by Alessandro Cappuccio. Oh man, my typing must have been. I was doing this over lunch, and I must have been eating and typing at the same time. I'm looking at all these rampant typos. There's subtle typos. Yeah, Cappuccio, but it looks like I hit like an extra key as I was finishing this. So it's Alessandro Cappuccio. Colors are by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters are by VC's Corey Pettit again. Look at that. Someone else from Visual Calligraphy getting their lettering in this week.
Oh, he gets a few in this week.
What's that?
He gets a couple in this week.
There you go. So this is a direct continuation of the story that we saw in the first issue of Moon Knight. Mr. Knight is the self-appointed protector of these night travel of anyone traveling at night, and he's dealing with lots of supernatural stuff. It's a real harkening back to his origins, dealing with werewolves and vampires and whatnot. Lots of the supernatural. In this issue, his aid is needed by, or at least supposedly needed by a neighbor, but it turns out to be, guess what, folks? Admiral Akbar knows exactly what it is. It's a trap. But it turns out Mr. Knight is able to deal with this trap effectively and gets his way out of it by opening up his mind.
Yes.
It's not it reminded me of something. There's another pop culture thing is like, there have been other pop culture instances where the character says, you want to take over my mind. It's not a pretty place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what plays out here.
Also,
this is not a Charles Xavier level telepath by any means.
I was about to say, also, it felt like it was like when he got to the part where he was like, "Yeah, you want to get into my island?" It's very alien. I was like, "Wait, does this have to do with like the King and Black symbiote stuff? Like, we're going back to that again when he got to that?" But I don't think so.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still dealing with Khonshu.
Sure.
It's still dealing with all the stuff, all the fallout from that Jason Aaron story in Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that's where a lot of this follows from. And we get a little there's a little bit of character development with his assistant, who is now a vampire,
which I don't know if we got that last issue or not. We did, because I don't remember that.
Yep, we did. And we also get another mysterious figure observing Moon Knight from a distance.
Right. And so that also came out last issue.
Exactly. That's going to be developing in the next several issues.
The only thing I got to say about this before we go on is like the way Moonlight handled it. I'm sitting like, especially in the time of COVID, I'm like, Ew. Like, why would you do that? There was well, I mean, given the nature of the person behind this the immediate thing's power set, like, okay, sure, there had to have been some contact, but I'm saying, like, did you really have to do that way? And that's all I'll say about that. If you want to know what happened over that, you can read it for yourself.
I agree with Roddykat on this one. That was, given the state of our public health these days, it was jarring to see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We would not have had that kind of reaction a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It would have been gross, but we would have been like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So next up for me, believe it or not, is a DC book. It's Nightwing number 83. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Bruno Redondo, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. So this is another chapter in the story of Nightwing's return to Bloodhaven, and Nightwing looking to reassert his character both in his civilian guise as Dick Grayson and in his costumed guise as Nightwing. So the bulk of this story is about Nightwing dealing with the ramifications of the Discovery last issue of a long unknown family relation that is going to prove to be tricky to deal with in Bloodhaven. The other part of this book deals with the revelation that we found out in recent issues that Dick Grayson is now richer than Bruce Wayne because he is a billionaire who inherited the billions that Alfred Pennyworth apparently had as a result of what he inherited from, what he was gifted by the Waynes and what he was able to invest over the years as Bruce Wayne was growing up. Presumably he had shares of Wayne Enterprises as well,
right,
and Wayne Industries. So he turned into a billionaire himself. And so Dick Grayson has all these billions and is looking to do something positive. And it turns out, and I like the idea that Tom Taylor put this particular caveat in where Nightwing actually goes to Superman for advice, and Nightwing says that what he wants to do might seem too small. He's worried that it might seem too small, and Superman says it's not small, it's focused. And that's an important distinction because trying to solve every problem is obviously virtually impossible, right? Even Superman can't do that. But what Nightwing and his newly found billions can do is focus in on a couple of problems and try to solve those. And that's what he's looking to try to do with a new foundation that he starts. We also get a hint of a rekindled romance. Fans of the New Teen Titans will not be pleased with this, but longtime fans of Robin, the character, will be. Also say that we have the developments of a future villain intervention in Dick Grayson's attempt to try to do good in Bloodhaven at the end of the issue.
So he's a rich Dick, just not a rich Dick.
Oh no. Anyway, moving on.
Well, I was gonna say, I know this is not the first time that Nightwing or Robin or Dick Grayson, I guess specifically, has gone to Superman about a thing, because I do remember that's coming up in a couple times in the past. So that's always kind of cool to see. But also that it could do much more with his millions than Bruce has been doing.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Exactly. So. Last but not least, and I was surprised that Roddykat did not get to this, so I do not want to spoil it. To me, it was the big book of the week. And I'm talking about X-Men, The Trial of Magneto, number 1 of 5. It's written by Leah Williams, with art by Lucas Werneck, colors are by Edgar Delgado, and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. It happened a while ago now. Several months ago now, actually. Actually, no.
No, it
A
was
couple
only
months
last month.
ago. Several's too many.
Yeah, it was only like last month, realistically. Because it happened at the end of the gala, which was last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, our sense of time is skewed, folks.
Yeah.
So, you know what it is because we've gotten several issues referencing it,
Exactly.
and it makes it feel longer.
You're right. Yeah. They even in this week's Marauders, they even referenced it.
So, there's a couple of other X books out this week. The finale of Way of X has actually ended this week with number 5, as well as X Corp number 4 is out also this week.
Which is
But
probably
the
going
one
to end at
X
some point
book,
soon.
What's that?
Which is probably going to end somewhat soon, I suspect.
Probably, but the X book I read, the other X book I read this week, including in addition to Marauders number 23, was X-Men Trial of Magneto, because we're getting into the after effects of what happened at the end of the Hellfire Gala. I'm going to ring the spoiler bell just in case you don't know what happened at the end of the Hellfire Gala. In 3, 2, 1, you're going to have to fast forward if you don't want to know what happened at the end of the Hellfire Gala and why there is a potential Trial of Magneto. So, again, I'm not spoiling anything for Roddykat here, at least story-wise.
Right.
But we get the investigation into what happened to Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. X factors on the case.
Yes.
In addition to X-Force, who were in charge of security during the Hellfire Gala on Krakoa, as well as several members of the X-Men, the newly formed X-Men team, who were the superheroes of Krakoa. The investigation plays out similar to CSI, Law and Order, even Aragorn tracking down Merry and Pippin when they're dragged off by the orcs before they run off into Fangorn Forest.
Okay. If you're playing Comic Book Chronicles Bingo, you have to mark out your spot where Agent 70 references the Lord of the Rings. There you go. Congratulations.
So we just need to hit Harry Potter and you get bingo. So that's one aspect of the story. We also get another aspect of the story where there's some argument over resurrecting Wanda, and believe it or not, she actually has backups. And the story goes, at least to this point, is that Pietro and Wanda were quote unquote fooling Cerebro into thinking they were mutants. I'm like, okay.
Which has come up before with Franklin Richards, in a way.
Yeah, but Franklin had mutant powers and then he didn't.
Well, yeah, that was the retcon, but their justification was the fact that, well, no, he was, because of his power set, he was fooling Cerebro up until recently,
So at this point, Cerebro has some backup, and some people are lobbying for, many are lobbying against.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually surprised by the people who are lobbying against. And ultimately, when we get to the end of this issue, the heroes, the heroes of the Marvel Universe, at least the Avengers, have been informed of what happened to the Scarlet Witch. We're dealing with a lot of the fallout amongst the mutants on Krakoa with regards to the death of the quote unquote pretender. Not everybody's sad. Lots of people are happy. And cliffhanger, this is comics after all. Do characters really die? So we know there's something at the end of the issue teasing what may be happening going forward, but we will see. It's only the first issue of 5.
So a couple of things on that. So yeah, so this has been a thing that's been building up with the last month or two, as Agent 70 said, and um, the whole there's a couple of things here, I guess, because yeah, like they've been building it up, but like we never got anything. So yeah, so this is one of the books I kind of wanted to get to this week because this is the thing I've been most curious about, but because of the fact I wanted to catch up in order just in case there was some kind of through line as the X books have been doing. I didn't get a chance to get to this one. That being said, the whole was based on what Agent 70 just said. Like, if folks did not know, Wanda's kind of been kind of persona non grata in Conqueror. Like they've all but spit at her name every time they've said it. A lot of people have, in saying her name because of going back to House of M, because that's still, that is still in Mutant's mind. So I'm actually kind of surprised that there are people that are for her resurrection, and I'm also slightly surprised that they even had backups for her and Pietro. So,
like I said, that was a weird little twist that Leah Williams threw in there.
Right. So now I'm even more curious to read this when I get a chance to. That being said, so, but yeah, I think that was pretty much all I had to say about that because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to read it. So,
right, and I did my best not to spoil too much. You'll see how a lot of this stuff plays out.
Yeah, I mean, and from what you said, like a lot of it was already kind of, well, some of it was kind of out or teased or something, not surprising or not outside of the realm of what could happen. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly. All right, you are up.
So I only have a couple. So this will go by pretty briefly. First one is Gamma Flight number 3. With the writing, or excuse me, the creative team of, as I get the cover up, we have Al Ewing and Crystal Frazier doing the writing. Art by Lan Medina, color artist Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. I don't know if Agent 70 has plans to read this or not. Do you?
I skimmed it, but I haven't really been keeping up with the book.
Sure. This is
feel free to spoil.
Yeah, there's not much to spoil. So basically, this is a mini series, the kind of broken off from Immortal Hulk, because Gamma Flight has been all up and through that book in the last few volumes. And this is pretty much the I guess, like I said, this is kind of the team kind of breaking out of that, because we know Immortal Hulk is ending next issue. No, it is next issue, right? Yeah. Anyway, has nothing to do, or has less to do with that, but they're still out there helping gamma powered people in their own, while being on the run themselves. And particularly, they have run across a person that needed some help. As of last issue, they ended up being transported somewhere else, thanks to a hastily put about plan from the Crusher Creel, the Absorbing Man, and they find themselves fighting off folks that initially looked like a bunch of toxic Avengers, but end up being Gamma related. But we also get a little bit more backstory on the person that they are trying to help, who has ties to a relatively, well, a Hulk foe that has shown up in the pages of Immortal Hulk. And I believe this is 3 of 5, I believe it is. So the next couple of issues are going to be the resolution of that, as it seems. So we can move on to my last book, which is the only other book that wasn't Marvel that I got the chance to read this week. No DC for me this week, oddly enough, because I don't remember there being anything I was actually trying to read. If there is, regardless. Because I couldn't remember if I read Shazam last time or not. Regardless, while I'm trying to find the Time Before Time number 4. This is a book by Image Comics, and the creative team is writers Declan Shalvey and Roy McConville, art by Joe Palmer, colors by Chris O'Halloran, and letters by Hassan Atsmane El-Alao. I think that's how you pronounce the name. I am not sure, so I apologize if I butchered your name. So the story is like there are these consortiums, groups, mafia like gangsters, whatever the case, that can shuttle people to a different time to set up shop, almost like a witness protection type situation, or just to kind of get away, not necessarily witness protection, but just get out of the time frame that this is the time that this is in. And the story centers around one such courier who the couriers of this that are tasked with this job also have debts upon them that that they're doing this job to work off. But of course, with any such thing as their debt is not easily shaved off. So some folks find themselves trying to get away or get out of their get away from this life by doing the same thing that they do for other people. In this case, this is like I centered around a character named Tetsuo, who tried to enact one such plan, but didn't go quite well as what he's planned, because he was the plan got kind of knocked around by this FBI agent named Nadia Wells, who pretty much hijacked the pod that he was using. They end up crashing landing in another time, and there's a little bit more to it with this FBI character, because she has a reason for hijacking the pod herself, but they end up kind of having to team up with each other for because of this. But they end up in a little bit of trouble because of the consortiums, the rival consortiums that they are, one of which works for and work between at different time frames in the history here. And as of last issue, we found that they end up having to not necessarily kidnap, but basically there was a double agent that was working for one of the syndicates, or the one working for the syndicate, which is who Tetsuo worked for, from a different time frame, who was basically who was working undercover for the rivals. But that cover got blown, and he ended up trying to take over the situation with Tetsuo, or trying to do something about the Tetsuo situation because of what what he was doing. And that didn't work out well for that character, and we come to find out that, like I said, there are some other parties that get involved that worked for the people that Tetsuo worked for, and at the end of this issue, Tetsuo gets put back on the job, but in not a very optimal way, let's just say. So we will see what will happen with that in the next issue. This has been a kind of interesting read. I kind of enjoy time travel stories, and this one's I can't think of anything that's kind of likened to it that's in popular culture. Like, you can kind of probably point to a couple of things here and there, but nothing directly. So have been kind of curious to see where this story goes, at least in the first arc, and whether it's going to go anywhere different when it comes out of it, or it's just going to be a long-reaching story of whatever they're trying to do here. But if that's anything I've said about that is interest to you, then you can check that out. Like I said, Time Before Time by Image Comics. And that, folks, are all of my books. So we can go to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the Week! All right. So I don't think we have any clicks of the week from our colleagues in absentia.
Nope.
So I will go and I'll tell you at least what I'm considering. I haven't finalized my decision, but I will tell you that I am strongly considering
Mhm.
X-Men: The Trial of Magneto #1 as a potential click of the week. I also was a big fan of Kang the Conqueror #1. Although it definitely did play out a little bit like Young Avengers, dealing with a young and old Kang at the same time, but without all the Avengers and the other Young Avengers in play.
Sure.
Um,
Like you said, this
I
could have been
actually,
something that's probably before that happens.
right, I actually enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy #17 too because I love the interplay between the characters.
Yeah.
So, um, you know what? I'm still gonna go with X-Men: The Trial of Magneto #1, but shout out to those other two for being really strong contenders this week.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of looking forward to reading that because, like I said, as you know, I've been curious of this, what they were going to be doing with this. For myself, definitely a potential click of the week. In Spider-Woman, excuse me, 14. That was a very fun read. We were talking before the show about the art, which I don't think what we may have mentioned. I don't know if we actually mentioned that in the course of the show as opposed to before, but we were talking about the art and the art choices that were really really good. Going into the issue, you might see something of it on new not news CB Caps soon. Um, also see a typo that I did off of that one. So great. Guardians of the Galaxy also was actually pretty good too. Um, so I'm actually thinking, well, Black Cat was also alright, but with that, it is the level of alright that we've already, that we kind of normally associate with it. Like it, well, actually, I take that even back. Like we know it's just usually fun, and it was, but you know, this one was kind of a baseline, I guess. So that being said, I think I'm actually am going to go with Spider-Woman #14, which I don't think I talked about. I didn't talk about. Son of a biscuit.
Only because I mentioned it, I think that's why.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and talk about that real quick. So Spider-Woman #14, the writing staff, and that was one of the first books I had, so I don't know how I even skipped that. Writer Carla Pacheco, art by Perry Perez, color artist Frank Darmada, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Um, yeah, and we did talk about this definitely before the show. We didn't talk about this during the show. Um, so at the end of last issue, we found out that once again, Jessica's newly found brother is involved in a thing for weirdly the same reason as he was before, but for some strange reason, at the outset of the last arc where that was seemingly taken care of, or potentially seemingly taken care of, it wasn't. But we also get to meet, to which we had news on this last week, so we knew this character was coming. As I say, we meet Jessica's new fashion-forward, cosplay-friendly Thorne in her side, Rose Roche, um, who is definitely uh, an antagonist to Jessica Drew's power. Well, just Jessica Drew, period. And we also get a sense that she may or may not be influencing what Michael's involvement and um, what's going on there. But at this point, she's she's an assistant slash love interest of his. But like I said, I feel like there's a little bit more going on there. And even Jessica says in his like uh there's you have more hands in this than what you're letting on, kind of in a way. Uh, but it was an interesting introduction to this character. and we're definitely going to see more of her in this arc, if not going forward in this book. We don't, but also we also see a turn by Jessica Drew's new brother, which I kind of expected would have happened in that last arc, but did not. So the fact that it happened here, not that big of a surprise, but is a thing that happened. So, and there was some good action in that book, and like I said, some of the artwork choices were really great, and that's why it is my click of the week. And there you have it. Now going from that, we can now go to the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue
That we can kind of blow through. So we'll go start off with Thor: Love and Thunder uses brand new technology to bring VFX to life. So apparently Thor: Love and Thunder is using, like I said, some technology used by Satellite Lab, the studio that created the tech for the Valkyrie Hela flashback from 2017's Thor Ragnarok. Love and Thunder director Taika Waititi spoke with Wired UK about the new tech that Satellite Lab designed for the film, known as Plate Light. It builds on the studio's dynamic light, and I feel like there are teams behind both of these. A technique that uses a special rig to move the lighting in a scene at 8 times the speed of sound. So this allows YTT to create the Ragnarok sequence where Loki forces Valkyrie to relive the memory of Hela slaughtering her fellow warriors in battle, with light moving rapidly over footage shot at 12,000 frames per second, giving the scene its unique visual style, which it did. So cool. Apparently, Black Adam is also going to use this tech, or is a similar tech. So I guess look out for that. Cool. Next up, though.
All right, next up, forgive me, folks. I am scrolling very slowly through what is a very packed and dense show notes sheet because I closed it by accident. Because that's what happens when you're closing tabs and you don't realize that you're closing one too many. Scrolling. It's scrolling so slowly. Disney CEO defends his Black Widow comments. I scrolled right past it because I went too far. Slow down. Forgive me, folks. Disney CEO defends Black Widow's release strategy amid Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit. Disney's chief executive officer, Bob Chapek, defended the dual release of Black Widow amid Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against the company. This was during a Q3 earnings call. Chapek stood by the decision to release the movie both in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, citing the COVID-19 pandemic as a major reason. And as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, he also revealed that Disney had entered into hundreds of talent arrangements besides the arrangement with Johansson, which have by and large gone very smoothly. Chapek did not mention Johansson or Black Widow by name. Yeah, basically he just said, He had no real comment on the lawsuit.
Right. But also in this article, which is leading to the next article, you know, you can check out the show notes to kind of read this whole thing. But there was some comments from Disney after Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit, and they kind of said one thing, and then this article also mentions that they gave a reason as to why, or a somewhat of a reason as to why it is, but also making it feel like it's making her into a bad guy for bringing this up. And
Right.
this article kind of brings that up. But later in the article, it also brings up the fact that, which is going into the next one, like I said, during the same earnings call, Chapek also confirmed that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings would not really receive a dual release. That so it's going to be theaters only, and
at least for a window.
Right. Exactly, because it's going back to the basically, hey, theater first, and then go to digital or
Premiere access. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to go to paid. It's going to go kind of the traditional route, but in a shorter window, because what's been announced, at least so far, the plan is to have Shang-Chi have an exclusive theater window and then go into paid streaming, which is on demand and Disney Premiere access.
Right, kind of like what we talked about with that Warner deal with theaters, but not with any deal attached. Anyway, but
Right.
so but the thing that is related to that, and going into the next article, is that Chepik says that this strategy would be an interesting experiment for Disney, as Shang-Chi's box office performance will inform the company's release decisions for future titles. At least that's what this article is saying. Cut to the next article.
Marvel Studios boss Kevin.
Shush. So a couple of things. So after hearing about that, the statement that I just said from Bob Chapek, Simu Liu, the star of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, came out and basically said, and I quote, "We are not an experiment." Where is the thing? Yeah, we are not an experiment. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the celebration of culture and joy that will persevere after an embattled year. We are the surprise. I am fired the fuck up to make history on September 3rd. Join us. In response to Bob Chapek's comments about it being an experiment. He did this on Twitter. Then cut to this article where Kevin Feige, of course, being the smoother of things, says that basically this was a misunderstanding.
It makes me laugh because I know Roddykat and I discussed this earlier about how it's almost like Feige's caught in the middle.
Yes.
Because of Disney higher ups, and Roddykat was unsure of that because we're all pretty certain that Feige has some idea of the business side, but we definitely know that he is neck deep in the creative side.
Right, as we said, he is pretty much the face of this stuff because of his role as Marvel Studios president and being the one who comes out and talks about all this stuff.
But my point being that there's only so much sway he has with the business side and the real higher ups who go on earnings calls and talk to the big shareholders.
Right.
So fortunately, but it seems like this is yet another example of Feige having to get in between the talent and the higher ups at Disney. I think this was I hate to be the cynic here because we know Roddykat's the cynic, but I think this was a calculated move by Simu Liu to make it look like he was misunderstanding what was said here, to really make a push for people to go out and see Shang-Chi in the theater.
You think so?
I think so. I think so. I think it was calculated because it's not so hard. It's not that, taking the statements as a whole, I was like, how do you misunderstand that? But I have a feeling that it was misunderstood on purpose to try to rally the troops, as it were, to get to the movie theater. Listen, I booked my tickets. I'm in there September 2nd, preview night, Thursday
Yes.
night. So that's why we're going to be in movie protocol September
Yeah,
2nd.
there we go. So there's that. So I don't know. Like I said, I think part of that, what I said from that last article was article interpretation. Like the actual statement was, was about the an interesting experiment, and I don't know if the part that was said after that in explaining that was a part of that. Like there's a couple of articles I cut out just for brevity's sake in this, because they all kind of say some of the same stuff anyway, so it was unnecessary. But here we are getting to this. Even if that was the case, I guess like sometimes that doesn't work out the way you think it would. And yeah, while I could see that possibly being the case, I don't fully unsurprised. Not surprised. I'm sure Agent 70 is not surprised by this, but I don't know if I fully believe that case. I believe that could be the case. I don't believe that is actually the case. Put it that way. That being said, well, we'll see if that one way or the other. We'll see if that works out. But we also know that these big wigs get out here and say all kind of crazy stuff, so it's not outside the realm of possibility that how it could have been interpreted could have been the case. But we can't say this outside the realm of the possibilities. But moving right along, this is you actually.
Yep, it is me. Marvel's Eternals will be getting a fall 2021 release date as originally planned. Tweeted by Aaron Couch, Disney's chief executive officer Bob Chapek confirmed during that same Q3 earnings call that when he said Marvel's Eternals is a 2022 title, he meant the 2022 fiscal year. The release date for the Marvel Cinematic Universe film is still set for November 5th, 2021. Okay. Oh, it was also recently revealed that Eternals is also not going to be released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus, following a commercial that aired during the summer 2021 Tokyo Olympics, which ended with the phrase "only in theaters November 5th." So it's likely that if the Shang-Chi experiment in release schedule goes forward as planned, they're probably going to follow suit with Eternals.
And on that note, I thought I had put this in the show notes, but it will be there by the time this goes out in audio form. There was, as of today, as of a recording, the final trailer for the Eternals came out today, and I don't know if you saw it, Agent 70.
I'm sorry?
Did you see the trailer that dropped today?
The Eternals trailer? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, it was, and we got some information and some stuff that we didn't get prior, from the prior trailers. So it was some good stuff. You should definitely check it out. And like I said, it will be in the show notes, by the time this goes out in audio form. But next up, Samuel L. Jackson confirms return of Nick Fury in Captain Marvel sequel. So yeah, Nick Fury is back. Samuel Jackson says, guess what time it is? Back in the box, just in the nick of time. Boom, boom. This social media reveal confirms that Jackson's involvement in the sequel to Captain Marvel, called The Marvels, by the way, if you did not know, which will be his 12th appearance in the MCU to date. Jackson will then reprise his role once more in the already mentioned Secret Invasion on Disney Plus, which I believe is already he has already said was filming. So there we go. We know Fury is going to be in Captain Marvel. Next.
All righty. Next up, Hawkeye will premiere on November 24th on Disney Plus, and Marvel Studios is counting down the seconds. The official Marvel Studios website added a countdown clock to its webpage for Hawkeye, the next live-action streaming series set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Though it still has a few months to go, the clock is counting down to the fall premiere date for the pilot episode of the streaming series. Once the first season of What If concludes with its 9th and final episode on October 6th, Hawkeye will be the next MCU project on the Disney Plus lineup. So it's a full month and almost 2 months later.
Right. I know there are not a lot of
But
people
also, no, but I was going to say also with Eternals in between.
correct. I know there are a lot of the people who don't like Hawkeye, especially this. Well, don't like this version of Hawkeye because of Jeremy Renner. I'm actually still kind of looking forward to this based on what the subject matter they're going to do because they're doing the Kate Bishop stuff from Fractions Run, so that we're going to get a little bit more. So I'm kind of curious to see how they play that out. Next up, though, Hawkeye star Alako Cox, please stop playing, reveals new casting info about her Echo series. So, yes, so we know Echo, the character of Echo, is going to be introduced in the Hawkeye series, the aforementioned Hawkeye series. And that series is expected to lead into Echo's series, which has yet to be confirmed by Marvel Studios, according to this article, but has been reported to be in development, according to various Hollywood trades. So Cox herself is sharing updates on the upcoming Disney Plus series, according to this article. The Echo Star shared a casting breakdown to her Instagram profile in which Marvel Studios casting maestro Sarah Finn posted 2 separate roles, Jessica and Iris. Both roles are similar to the eponymous character in that they are either Native American or Latinx and fluent in American Sign Language. And then it goes on into the character breakdown therein. So whether that Echo show actually comes into being from this, we don't know. We haven't gotten anything confirmed, but stay tuned. Maybe we'll hear something getting closer to Hawkeye or thereabout. Next up,
Ethan Hawke credits Oscar Isaac for being cast in Marvel's Moon Knight and reveals his character's inspiration. So, Ethan Hawke is set to star in Marvel's Moon Knight, and he will be playing the head villain. While there is no confirmation of who he's playing, it's believed at this point that it will be Bushman, a former mercenary who was Moon Knight's oldest and most formidable nemesis. During a recent interview on Late Night with Seth Meyers, the actor opened up a bit about the show and shared how he ended up being cast in the series. He credits series star Oscar Isaac, who basically invited him to be in the series after randomly running into him in Brooklyn, New York. Gotta love it, Brooklyn!
I know, right? Must be nice to be able to get a role in the thing, based off of that.
Sure, he lives 3. Yeah, so Ethan Hawke says, well, I heard about it from Oscar Isaac, who lives 3 blocks down the street from me in Brooklyn. I was at a coffee shop. He came up to me. He's like, hey, I really like the Good Lord Bird. I was like, hey, cool. I really like your work. You're amazing. He's like, hey, want to be in the Moon Knight with me? I was like, yeah. So it happened the right way, You got to love it.
The right way. It only happens to certain people in Hollywood that way. So it's not the right way.
So my only problem with this is from my recollection is that I really hope it's not Bushman, because if I recall correctly, Bushman was black.
Mm-hmm.
So that would suck, taking a role away from a black actor by making it Ethan Hawke.
I was about to say, you mean as opposed to any number of other times that has kind of happened?
I'm just saying, it would suck.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything about that character, and I was about to kind of channel Matt Wang, who was like, it's not Sun King or whatever, whatever that character's name. He said when we were talking about Moonlight, our earlier version of Moonlight. I don't know. Shout out to Matt Wang. So, and apparently, yeah, we get a little bit on who Ethan Hawke's basing his character on. The word is the name David Koresh is in there. So there you go. Next up, Ms. Marvel's star opens up about playing the MCU's first Muslim hero. Actor Iman Vellani, debuts as Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, in the upcoming Disney Plus show, Ms. Marvel. The significance of this pop culture property existed in the MCU is not lost on Vellani. Pardon me. Oh, she has a name similar to my wife's. I don't know why I'm messing that up. The fact that the show is being made and they're including this character in the MCU is what's important, Vellani said to Variety. I don't really have to go out of my way to talk about being Muslim and being Pakistani. It all comes out in the show. People seeing a person like me involved in a project as big as this is, I think, inspiring enough. So, yeah, good on her. And it also, this article goes on to say that yes, she is also going to be in the Captain Marvel sequel, which we already know. So there you go. Next.
Next up, I'm going to skip this story because we already talked about the fact that T'Challa Star-Lord is out. There is a what if poster that heralds the arrival of that character.
Mm-hmm.
But next up is Disney has shared an impressive trailer for Star Wars Visions, its anime anthology series premiering September 22nd on Disney Plus. The trailer oozes style and flair, and it looks like the series will tell some thrilling new stories in the Star Wars universe. Visions will feature 9 animated shorts from 7 anime studios. Disney also revealed the English dub voice cast, which features some big names, including Alison Brie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, David Harbour, Red Guardian, Neil Patrick Harris, Lucy Liu, and Temuera Morrison, who we know as Boba Fett. You can see more of the cast on the official Star Wars website. And Disney says that you'll be able to watch the series both with the English dub cast and the original Japanese voice cast. That's cool.
Try to guess which one I'm going to be listening to. Now I will check out both.
Yeah, I mean, when you put together a voice cast like that, like a star laden voice cast, I'm gonna have to listen to both as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the if you haven't checked out the trailer or any of the trailers that has come out on this, you should. It's some really good stuff. Especially if you're a fan of anime. You don't necessarily have to be a Star Wars fan, and none of it's canon anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's some good looking stuff. Doctor Strange 2's crew gifts reveal America Chavez's MCU outfit, apparently. So gifts sent out for the cast and crew of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness revealed that the outfit America Chavez will wear when she makes her MCU debut. And I'm also seeing some other news that I'm slightly excited about if it's the case, but I'm just going to pocket that for next week. Artwork from on a framed Marvel Studios Presents poster for the Doctor Strange sequel features Stephen Strange, Wong, Scarlet Witch, and America Chavez. It shows the future young Avenger with her familiar blue jean jacket over a t-shirt. Instead of the shirt she typically wears in the comics, it appears that the MCU America Chavez is wearing pants, which they make those kind of changes all the time going to live action. So that's not that big of a surprise. Apparently, this is coming from some, I'm going to say, a Doctor Strange fan site, or Doctor Strange movie fan site, I guess. I don't know what this tweet is from, but if you're watching the video version of this here podcast, you can see the framed poster in question, which was like the cover of an old Marvel comics comic. Next up.
Okay, next up, Marvel Studios and Anthony Mackie have reached an agreement for the star to pick up the shield once again in Captain America 4. According to Deadline, it's not yet clear if Sebastian Stan, Mackie's co-star in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series, will reprise his role as Bucky Barnes in the 4th Captain America film. Along with starring in 5 films set in the MCU, Cap, The Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, Mackie and Stan's Falcon and Winter Soldier became the second MCU series to debut on Disney Plus following WandaVision.
So I feel like this is not a big surprise, but we just didn't know it. We didn't have confirmation of it.
We didn't have final word, right? Exactly.
So it was just a matter of time for when we did. Oh, and here's the trailer for the Eternals, which for some strange reason I put here instead of earlier in. So we could just move past that and go on to Jim Shooter says that Marvel is developing a live action Secret Wars, which I feel like we've kind of thought that sure, that's probably something they might be trying to do, but we don't know. So here we go. Jim Shooter, who was the writer of Marvel's original Secret Wars event, says Marvel Studios is developing a live-action adaptation of the project. The creator was a recent guest at the MegaCon convention, where he was asked about the possibility of Secret Wars heading to the MCU. While discussing how a money clown called him up to offer $10,000 to write a novelization of Secret Wars, Shooter revealed Marvel Studios' attempt to secure the rights to the storyline. I'm not going to go into it, but you can read it. It's kind of actually amusing because of that money clown quote. And it's in the show notes, so you can read that for yourself. But this doesn't necessarily say that they're actually going to do it, but it sounds like he may have been approached for that reasoning, which, given what we know already, would make total sense. Well, between that Secret Wars and Hickman's Secret War, anyway, I would think at this point it would be lean towards Hickman's, but we'll see. Next up, director Daniel Espinosa's upcoming Marvel film Morbius seems like it's going to be something pretty cool, at least according to this writer. This writer really enjoyed those first trailers that were released, and it seems like Jared Leto is going to be great in the title role of a scientist turned vampire, according to this writer. Thank you.
The trailers have also revealed that the film is connected to Marvel's Spider-Man movies because Michael Keaton reprised his role as Vulture in it. That character was first introduced in Spidey Homecoming, and the writer is curious to see how he fits into the story. Okay. The director of Daniel Espinosa, seems to have now let the cat out of the bag regarding another Marvel character that will appear in the movie. Here's what he said in a recent interview with Swedish outlet Moviezine. I usually feel strange before the day begins, blah, 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 blah. When you look at the schedule and read names like Michael Keaton, Jared Leto, Tom Hardy, then it feels good and very exciting. Okay. So I guess there may very well be an Eddie Brock / Venom cameo in the Morbius film.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Jared Leto, so whatever. Next up, Superman was considered. God damn it! Stop with the freaking autoplay and ish. Superman was considered as the main villain in this Suicide Squad, apparently. So James Gunn has revealed that there was a time where he considered making Superman the main villain of the Suicide Squad. On the latest episode of Script Apart, this is a podcast apparently, which will come up again after this. The Suicide Squad's writer and director discussed the evolution of the script for the DCEU. He revealed at one point he toyed with the idea of pitting Task Force X against the Man of Steel because he felt like it would make for a very interesting story. Coincidentally, there was a Suicide Squad, a video game that is coming out that will seemingly broach that subject because I think they're pitting them up against the Justice League. So a version of the Suicide Squad is definitely going to seem like it was going to go up against a version of the Justice League, which includes Superman. So anyway, Starro is a character I love from the comics. I think he's a perfect comic book character because he's absolutely ludicrous, but he's also very scary in his own way. Gunn said, explaining why he changed direction. What he does is scary. He used to scare the crap out of me when I was a child, putting those face huggers on Superman and Batman and stuff. So yeah, and it goes on from there. Next up,
spoilers. Stargirl's Jenny Lee Hayden teases her future as Green Lantern. Jenny Lee Hayden isn't just a Green Lantern. She is the Green Lantern. She is the Green Lantern. Okay. As Jenny discovered in Summer School Chapter 2, the latest episode of Stargirl, she doesn't need her father's Green Lantern to power his Lantern Core ring. She is an energy source all to herself, with the ability to fuel the ring and tap into its ability to cast any construct she could think of, making her a powerful ally to Courtney and the Justice Society of America. Unfortunately for the JSA, she decided to leave Blue Valley at the end of the episode, but she'll be back. Speaking to CBR, Stargirl star Issa Penareo confirmed she will return as Jenny later in the season. Okay.
Yeah. Going back one article, the Suicide Squad's original ending was darker, featuring another death. But again, you can read the article because it might also spoil something for what actually happened in Suicide Squad. Actually, it does. It says so in the article that that does spoil something for the Suicide Squad if you haven't watched that movie yet. So next up,
The Boys celebrates Emmy nominations with 7 Super Days pop-ups. Amazon Studios. The Boys will celebrate the original series' 5 Emmy nominations with 7 Super Days. It launched on last Friday, August 13th, lasting until the day of this taping, August 19th. The week-long event was filled with The Boys-themed pop-ups all across Los Angeles, California, including complimentary food, drinks, and activations, all inspired by scenes and characters from season 2 of The Boys. Okay.
Spawn movie first announced back in 2009, finally found a writer in Brian Tucker. This news comes nearly a year after it was revealed last September that the movie script had taken a new direction. Tucker, who's best known for writing for the script to 2013's Broken City, has been hired to write a new script for the movie, as reported by the Hollywood. Why am I about to say Hollywood Shuffle? The Hollywood Reporter. Todd McFarlane will direct the film, with Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions set to produce. McFarlane will also produce the movie, and Carla Hacken will serve as executive producer. There you go. So hopefully I guess that's still on the books or something. Next.
HBO Max is growing one of animation's most weird and wonderful worlds with a series order for Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake. That's a working title. An all-new half-hour young adult animated series starring the fearless sword-wielding adventurer Fiona and her magical best friend and talking cat, Cake. Produced by Cartoon Network Studios, the 10-episode series will explore their relationship and the mysterious land of Adamuto or Muto, if you are a fan of the legendary Godzilla verse or MonsterVerse. Creator of Adventure Time Distant Land specials, will serve as showrunner and executive producer. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to take both of these. Fast and Furious. No, I'll actually. You know what? You get the last one. Fast and Furious Spy Racers uses Dom Toretto to forge the franchise's Ultron. And this is spoilers for Fast and Furious Spy Racers, which is the Netflix animated show. So apparently in this, I won't go in too far because I'm not caught up on it either way. So apparently,
I was about to say I stopped watching after like the 3rd episode of the 1st season, something like that.
I think I did actually also.
I'm like, this is still going on, like the cartoon.
5 seasons apparently, yeah. Which granted,
I was about to say there is
Roddykat.
There is one extra story in the spillover section I put in there.
Oh, okay. Well, you still get the next one then. So apparently the Dom gets kidnapped and they use him to in some sort of AI. Well, and I guess Tony is participating in some AI race, and the prize is Dom, and apparently AI version of Dom is used to make this version of Ultron or something or other like that. You can read in the article. I don't know. Kind of silly. But then again, Fast and Furious in itself is kind of silly. Speaking of,
there are moments that
that was, yeah. Love the.
I was about to say, I'm like, you trying to pull out the Fast and Furious sound effects?
No, that was just auto playing video from the article.
Oh, okay.
I mean, next article.
I live for a mile at a time.
Speaking of, Universal's Fast and Furious 10 has a release date. The penultimate film in the long-running Cars to Spies franchise will hit theaters on April 7th, 2023, The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Justin Lin, will direct the 10th and 11th films in the Fast franchise, which will be the conclusion of the core movies.
Sure. Let us go over to the spillover section. Oh, see, that was the one I was going to save until next week.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was, yeah, you wouldn't have. But since it's here, since you already put it in here, fine. Marvel's Ironheart set to debut in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So, ahead of Iron Man solo series on Disney Plus, Dominique Thorne will debut as teen genius Riri Williams in next year's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Comicbook.com spoke to Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, who confirmed that Thorne will make her MCU debut in the in the Black Panther sequel arriving next summer. But that was some speculation that folks have had out there also. From there, she'll headline her own series. So when the show will release hasn't been revealed. Quote unquote, we're shooting Black Panther Wakanda Forever right now, and the character of Riri Williams you will meet in Black Panther 2 first, Feige said. Started shooting, I think, this week before her Ironheart series. So I'm excited that Riri is going to be in the MCU first of all, and the fact that she's getting her own show also. So that's cool in both respects. And so now we go ahead.
What I was going to say is I think it's unlikely that she gets any armor in her first appearance.
Quite likely. Yeah, exactly. We do know in the comics she has had especially relatively recently has been attached to Wakanda. So or has taken trips to Wakanda and have interacted with folks there. So, not that big of a surprise that it's happening here, I guess. That being said, we can move over to the comic book news.
Transition.
DC announces a new universe melding superheroes and Game of Thrones. DC is launching a new medieval universe that mixes superheroes with Game of Thrones, like previously said. It's written by Tom Taylor of Nightwing and Injustice fame, with art by Yasmin Putri. Dark Knights of Steel, which apparently is the universe, will see DC's stalwarts such as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn given a medieval fantasy twist. So this basically Injustice in a fantasy sense, from what it sounds like, except for, well, we don't know the regular plot. It could be Superman going rogue. We don't know. I've spent the last 2 years creating a new fantasy universe, which at this point, given what I just said, doesn't sound all that new, especially given what Tom Taylor's done. Anyway, and Dark Knights of Steel is an absolute dream come true. Taylor told EW, Entertainment Weekly. Despite being the writer of the DC horror series Deceased, I am actually a huge fantasy fan. Combining two of my favorite things, DC superheroes and high fantasy, is my absolute happy place. I grew up reading Lord of the Rings alongside Superman. Terry Pratchett alongside Garth Ennis. Robin Hobb and Mark Waid, you get the point. Dragonlance and Justice League. So now I get to bring all of this together with the incredible Yasmin Putri. And the biggest story I could imagine, a tale of war and love, of despair and hope, of betrayal and improbable alliances forged in battle. So basically Injustice, Deceased, and a couple of other things that Tom Taylor has done. And I guess capitalizing on the fact that, hey, D&D is kind of big right now, so why not make a big fantasy thing? This is just my speculation on everything that I just said, but I wouldn't be surprised. And plus, Marvel has done some things already on that front, in a way. But if you're gonna get somebody to write something like this, and especially given what Tom Taylor's already done, sure, why not? Next up, this November, Wonder Woman will step up and act as Earth's representative in a cosmic trial to decide the fate of humanity. In the upcoming limited series Wonder Woman Evolution, writer Stephanie Phillips and artist Mike Hawthorne will tell a story that is a juxtaposition of grand sci-fi and Diana's core humanity. Okay. Sure. Also worth noting, I believe we may or may not have said previously, or earlier in the program, November solicitations are out for both DC and Marvel and other places. I'm pretty sure there's still some more to come, but a lot of stuff will be coming from there. Batman quits Gotham, setting up 2022 DC event Shadow of the Bat. For 81 years, Batman has been the protector of Gotham City, but come November 2021, that is no more. As revealed in DC November 2021 solicitations, Batman is leaving Gotham City with his wards and allies to fill the void as protectors of the city. Earlier this year, Bruce Wayne was forced to relinquish his family fortune and business as a part of the Joker War. This is yet another blow to the Bat franchise, and I feel like something that has been done before a couple of times. Actually, not because there was that one time he died, and then that was just like, whatever. Anyway, Batman leaving Gotham will be one of the lasting effects of the current Fear State event, a crossover whose coda November 30th. Batman Fear State Omega #1 will lay it all out according to the issue's description. Described as a new day dawning on the city of Gotham, Batman will be absent from his hometown, although his absence does not mean the city is without heroes. So there you go. We're doing this again. Next.
I mean, Superman's leaving the Earth. Batman's
already
leaving
left the
Gotham.
Earth, actually. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I think that Superman thing has already happened. I thought.
No, what I was going to say, the thing about Superman is it depends on which book you're looking at in terms of whether or not he's left already or not.
Good point.
Just because of the way the publishing schedule works. That's all.
Yeah, good point.
Ultimately, he will have left in all books at some point very soon.
Right, because it's kind of like a future state coming before what's going on now. Yeah.
Exactly. Next up, 1992's Batman Returns. Star Danny DeVito is writing a Penguin comic for the Batman villain's 80th anniversary. So he's reprising the role somewhat in a unique way, writing that Penguin-centric comic book for November's Gotham City Villains Anniversary Giant #1 Anthology one-shot. Along with DeVito's Penguin story, Gotham City Villains Anniversary Giant #1 features contributions from writer-artist Wes Craig, writers G. Willow Wilson, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Joshua Williamson, Stephanie Phillips, Dan Waters, that is, and Merrick Red Scott, as well as artists Dan Mora, Emma Rios, Ricardo Federici, Max Rayner, Max Fiumara, Skylar Patridge, blah, 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 blah. The artist of DeVito's Penguin story is not yet specified.
On a side note, there's a little short from Discord, the Skype like video offering the audio software that he and Aquafina did, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of silly. They're basically sitting there trying to explain to him what Discord is. Danny DeVito, him looking like his Always Sunny character. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, so I guess Danny DeVito writing a Penguin story is not the worst idea I've heard, but also, you don't know how I feel about that kind of stuff. Next up, Fables lands a high-end box set. So this is good news to Fables fans if you don't already know have this stuff, I guess. Next year, DC Comics celebrates the 20th anniversary of Bill Willingham and Mark Buckingham's Fables with a high-end book set collecting the entire saga thus far. The original Fables title, first published by DC's now defunct Vertigo imprint, is currently slated to return for issue 151 under the DC Black label in May 2022. 1 month before that, on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, Fables, the 20th anniversary box set, arrives in shops with the cover price of $240 USDs. As revealed by the aforementioned solicits. From Fables to 20th anniversary box set is comprised of 4 compendium volumes, which come in a slipcase featuring artwork by Buckingham. The set collects Fables 1 through 150, Fables The Last Castle, Fables 1001 Nights of Snowfall, Fables Werewolf of the Heartland, Jack of Fables 33 through 35, and The Literals 1 through 3. not in there is the Telltale game Wolf Among Us, because that's a video game and not a and not a story. I don't think they did a comic book on that part of it anyway. So yeah. So if you're a fan of Fables or whatnot, you can go check that out. Next up,
DC Universe superheroes will be featured in several upcoming webcomic series through a new deal between Warner Media's DC Entertainment and Webtoon. Under the agreement, DC and Webtoon, owned by South Korean internet company Naver, will collaborate on standalone webcomics that will appeal to all fans, quote, without the need to know or read any previous stories, according to the companies. For now, however, DC and Webtoon are not divulging any details about the projects emerging from the stable of DC superheroes. The companies plan to announce more in the next few weeks. The DC webcomics will first be available in English, followed by other language translations. Okay.
this seems like kind of a big deal, especially for Webtoon. And I believe, as we know, some notable folks have Webtoon comics already out there. That, well, not I think, at least the one I'm thinking of right now hasn't done any much DC work, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know. It kind of feels like Star Wars and the Star Wars anime anthology thing for some strange reason. But hey, we'll see what happens with that. The Suicide Squad's King Shark sinks his teeth into Hot Toys. Boom, boom. So King Shark's getting a Hot Toys. You can see the figure and the accoutrement, including the book that he's reading upside down, in the show notes as I scroll through them, and for the video part of this. And if you're not watching the video, hey, you should sometime. Good stuff.
Bird.
But next up, oh wait, King
Bird.
Shark's, huh? Oh, yes,
Bird.
indeed, yes. King Shark's Hot Toys figure. Actually, there is no bird, sadly, with this figure. That's a missed opportunity. Anyway, King Shark's Hot Toys figure is now available for pre-order at the price of $220. The figure is expected to ship between July and September 2022. Not a big surprise for the price, because Hot Toys is usually, pricey like that and detailed, as you can see. So, sure. Next.
One of Marvel's core X-writers, Tini Howard, is branching out and making a return to DC Comics. The Excalibur and X-Corp writer will be writing a story in December 4th's Batman Urban Legends #10 anthology. Howard is working with artist Christian Duce on a holiday-themed story. This short will be Howard's second published DC work after writing a backup story in 2016's Shade the Changing Girl #3. This new gig would signal that Howard's exclusive contract with Marvel Comics, announced in March 2019, has ended. But before X fans get worried, a recent conversation with Howard assured Newsarama she plans to continue work at Marvel and with Krakoa. In addition to her work at Marvel and now DC, Howard will continue to co-write Vault Comics' Vampire: The Masquerade ongoing. And she also created a magic system for the upcoming 3 Worlds, 3 Moons series that'll be serialized on Jonathan Hickman's Substack Pro feed. Okay.
Cool. There'll be more Substack news in a minute. Speaking of Jonathan Hickman, though, Jonathan Hickman is leaving X-Men with Inferno's conclusion. So apparently, Hickman is stepping away from Marvel's X-Men line after Inferno event that he's writing. While Inferno marks the end of Hickman's time as showrunner of the X-Men franchise, according to this article, this is not the end of his time at Marvel. According to Entertainment Weekly, Hickman is already working on his quote-unquote next big Marvel thing, which should make his debut sometime next year, along with a weekly X-Men series. Quote-unquote, plans have changed entirely, Hickman said regarding his initial X-Men plans. When I pitched the X-Men story I wanted to do, I pitched a very big, very broad 3-event narrative, the first of which was House of X. And while this is loosely worked as a 3-year plan, I told Marvel upfront that I honestly had no idea of how long the first part would last, because there's a lot of interesting ideas that I had seeded that other creators would want to play with. And so we left this rather open-ended. I was also pretty clear with all the writers that came into the office what the initial 3-act plan was, so no one would be surprised when it was time for the line to pivot. So I guess this is not that big of a surprise, but by virtue of each saying early, I don't know.
Well, I think there's a couple things that I can speculate on.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that I think a lot of people want to play with resurrected X characters.
Yes.
And they haven't had a chance to resurrect all the characters they want to play with. So I think that's the stage in the story that is going to stay active.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why Hickman is pulling the plug on the 3-year plan.
Right.
Because it's not like he's stepping away, because in our very next story, Marvel's X-Men line adds a weekly series for 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvel doesn't really pay Hickman, quote, to just write ongoing monthly books. There's an expectation for him to write bigger books that have a wider reach than that, X-Men writer Jonathan Hickman said during a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly. In an effort to facilitate both things, he and the other writers have all spent the last 6 months or so reorienting the line, him creating Inferno to assist with that, and then bringing in some new writers to add to the existing team, and then plan for the next several years of X books. So that's what made me think they still have characters they want to resurrect and put into the X-Men, or at least the mutant lineup.
Sure. Seems legit. I mean, and there's still like even that last article said, like, yeah, there's a lot, or he said in that last article, there's a lot to play with that whole thing in general, even
Exactly.
above that.
Because if he was going to get rid of Krakoa and the whole resurrection protocols in Act 3 of his story, then, and kind of bring them back to something close to a status quo, then that foregoes any of these possible storylines that maybe some other creators had with other X characters or other mutants that they thought about bringing back.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have to come up with another way rather than just putting through the resurrection protocols.
Yeah. So I guess good news, and I don't know.
We'll see, because we don't know we don't know what direction that's going to go in, because we've been intrigued by some of the characters they've brought back
and some of those things that have been brought up in Hexbox.
Right.
Because
some of that stuff. Well, go ahead.
I was about to say they have barely scratched the surface on that future stuff. Like they barely kind of touched on it recently with, or some of it, a part of it recently in Hellions.
Right, and they've really only touched upon a little bit in X-Men of the Nimrod stuff. Exactly. So if we think the Nimrod stuff, and based on the November solicits I flipped through, the Nimrod stuff is going to come to at least some point, some high point, maybe not a climax, maybe not a conclusion in Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that Mystique is going to play a role because she's getting fed up now with her frustrations with certain things. We're not going to spoil right now, but she's definitely frustrated. So that is probably going to be a big part of Inferno. But if what we're hearing is to be interpreted the way we're interpreting it, it's not going to put an end to Krakoa, because other writers have story ideas they want to take out of, kind of pull out of where Krakoa would likely be at the end of Inferno,
right?
Without being destroyed,
right? Which is good, because Krakoa and everything around it is kind of fertile ground. So yeah, they got stuff they could potentially play with for a good minute, and stuff like they're already going down that line.
Yeah. Right. So as Hickman said, if he had planned out in a 3-act story over the course of 3 years, we're already getting into that 3rd year, and it doesn't seem like he's looking to wrap it up, even with Inferno kind of bringing a couple of those stories to a kind of crescendo.
Mm-hmm.
It may not end the way he had initially planned, as his interviews have kind of put forth, because other people want to play too.
Indeed. Next up, Marvel's Blade goes more feral vampire in his Darkhold makeover. The Avenger Blade will now be a part of will be a part of Marvel's Darkhold event. Now, not now, but transforming him something more feral than a simple vampire hunter. Steve Orlando and Cian Tormey are the creative team on Darkhold Alpha #1, the opening salvo of the mystical Marvel event. Scarlet Witch, somehow, and and Doctor Doom must work together to keep the Darkhold text. I'm joking about that because we already know. To keep the Darkhold text from wrecking the Marvel universe. Darkhold Blade #1 by writer Daniel Kibblesmith and artist Federico Sabatini is one of the tie-in one-shots continuing the story, along with Darkhold Iron Man #1 by writer Ryan North and artist Guillermo Sana. And it goes on to explain part of what goes on in that, which we don't necessarily have to get into. Next.
A new iteration of the Masters of Evil from Marvel's multiverse will plague the Avengers in November. The multiversal Masters of Evil were introduced in this past week's free comic book day Avengers Hulk #1. Did you get a copy, Roddykat?
No, I did not, but we
do have a review copy.
We do have that in its own Comixology also, which I believe I put those links in the show notes of this week's free comic book day things. If I have not, then it will be, as Agent 70 shows puts up his copy. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say I have my background on blurry, so it probably is not showing up that well, but that's okay. You don't have to show it for too long. Getting back to the story, these characters will return in Avengers #50, aka issue 750. For Earth's Mightiest Heroes. The giant-sized issue contains 96 pages of game-changing stories from writer Jason Aaron and a lineup of artists including Carlos Pacheco, Aaron Cooder, Ed McGuinness, and Javier Garrón. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. We hadn't seen the Masters of Evil in a minute, so it was good to have them back in the Avengers fold, albeit a clearly way different version, I guess.
Right, and actually severely overpowered.
As if the one that sieged Avengers Mansion was not.
Right. I mean, looking at this lineup, I mean, it's unclear what some of these characters are because they seem to be melds, like kind of mishmash,
yes,
amalgams of certain characters. So it's hard to tell, but they seem tremendously powered.
Right. By the way, the Trial of X-Men, I forgot to mention earlier, there was a, what was it, 90s? Was that a 90s event where Magneto was actually on trial because of something he had done briefly?
Avengers vs. X-Men?
Yeah, because of that, but that was before that happened, and then the Trial of Magneto happened after that, I believe.
Right, I think so.
Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember the order of that, but regardless, so
because they sank the submarine.
Correct. And this week's Trial of Magneto is kind of not necessarily harkening back to that, but basically using that because it was that's kind of the thing that Marvel's been doing lately, just kind of harking back to old events in a way.
Sure. Some would say recycling.
Some would say recycling in certain cases, but some of those recyclers are kind of like, nah, it's kind of name only. We're just using it because, hey, remember this, or not even remember this, but as a homage, basically.
Right.
Acclaimed novelist. I'm kind of happy for this. Acclaimed novelist Walter Mosley takes on The Thing this November. Thanks to Agent 70 put forward in the lineup. This fall, renowned storyteller Walter Mosley, he of Devil in a Blue Dress, Blue Light, and Killing Johnny Fry, XYZ, and many other things. Known for his definitive and best-selling international work in the mystery and crime fiction, brings his signature fiction writing style to a sweeping saga of Yancey Street's favorite son in The Thing. The 6-issue series debuts in November 2021. Before the show, I could have sworn Walter Mosley has written The Thing before. And to which I believe Agent 70 said it was like, maybe it was a dream or something. I don't know, but written by Mosley and with art by Tom Riley. The story will range from the urban sprawl of the alleys of Manhattan to the furthest reaches of the cosmos itself. In The Thing, a lonely evening and a chance encounter, or is it, sends Ben Grimm embarking on a sojourn that will have him confronting and battling figures both new and old. I feel like if you had told me Ben was gonna be like a noir, like a Sonny Rollins character, I'd be like, okay, I'm still with it. Not Sonny Rollins. I forgot the Devil in Blue Dress character. But regardless, it's Walter Mosley. I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out. Next up, because I am a fan of his work.
Okay. I mean, I'm not familiar with it, so. Marvel Comics has announced Star Wars Crimson Reign, a new comic book series starring the character Kira, who was famously played by Game of Thrones alum Emilia Clarke in the 2018 film Solo, a Star Wars story which isn't as bad as people made it out to be. Written by Charles Soule and illustrated by Steve Cummings, Star Wars Crimson Reign is a 5-issue limited series slated to launch this November, with it spinning out of the War of the Bounty Hunters event, which first introduced Solo's Kira to Marvel Star Wars lineup. Crimson Reign promises to, quote, reshape the history of the Star Wars galaxy during the Age of Rebellion. Okay, unquote.
Yeah. Side note, I read that comic book Emilia Clarke co-wrote with Marguerite Bennett from a couple of weeks back. That's a weird joint.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe Quinones slams Marvel. I don't know if slams is the right word, but people. Anyway, Joe Quinones slams Marvel for scrubbing signature from America Chavez poster. So this was the thing I saw play out on Twitter. Comic book artist Joe Quinones called out Marvel for scrubbing his signature from a poster of Miss America Chavez, made from one of his comic book covers. I believe it was for the first issue of her first solo series, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, cool! They made a poster of my cut. Oh, what happened to my signature, Marvel? That's what he wrote on Twitter. Sharing an image of the poster in question with a close-up image of the signature that had been partially erased. The poster is made from a poster cover of America Volume 1, Life and Times of America Chavez, written by Gabby Rivera and illustrated by Quinones, which I think also served as the first issue of the book also, if I'm not mistaken. And as such things happen, other comic creators also responded to this tweet. I'm not sure who this person is. Like, this is absolutely not cool, anti-cool, and I believe, and I did see where Francisco Francavilla said, like, yeah, it pretty much happened to him, with a Shang-Chi cover that he did, and signature was gone. Jerry Ordway also chimed in on it, saying a similar thing happened to him with a DC cover of his.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I saw this controversy pop up online and on Twitter, I'm familiar with it. It's happened all the time. That was the sloppiest erase job I'd seen ever.
Yes.
Most of the time, it's a clean erase where if you're a fan of the artist and you recognize exactly where they put their signature, and then you see the production poster and their signature is mysteriously not where they left it. It's not uncommon. It happens all the time. I sympathize with the artists, but at the same time, it's kind of lame that literally whoever was doing this got sloppy in their Photoshop and left like the layer on, or didn't completely do the erase job. That's just lame.
Right. They basically did a color thing, but it just didn't get the whole thing. Like, I feel like I know what they did. Like, even with my meager Photoshop skills, I know what they did. Like, they just basically took a part of the cover and
blurred. Yeah,
and
exactly.
blurred it
They
out.
dragged the color over.
And probably use like the paintbrush. I mean, not paintbrush, but the spray paint one. And like, and
right,
like,
and they
like
just did it too fast. They saved it too soon. Just lame. Somebody was just lazy.
Yeah, it was very sloppy work, and it's sad that this happened in the first place.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But like I said, as someone who, as folks can tell, maybe not by my current background, but as folks can tell by my normal backgrounds, is that I do dabble in posters. So I am
He does.
familiar with signatures not being where they normally are if it's a reproduction of, like, say, a cover or a splash page.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, moving
Next up.
on. Chip Zdarsky is the latest comic book star creator to join the subscription newsletter and now creator-owned digital publishing platform Substack. We reported this last week, but now we have more information. Let's see. Zdarsky's work for Substack will include the return of an image title he created, along with brand new property he'll write and draw. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I will take these next 4 because they're
All
all
right.
about. Agent 70, not a big video gamer, and nevertheless,
If it was Marvel versus Capcom, I'd be all over this. But
well,
if it's not,
and we already talked about that one last week. So
yeah, I'm taking a backseat on these.
So Marvel's Adventures developer confirmed Spider-Man still on track for 2021 release. So this is basically for DLC for Marvel's Adventures made by Square Enix, which, yes, folks, is still going on. So apparently, yeah, they're saying right now their focus is definitely on Wakanda, which it just came out, which we'll get to in a second. Which is our capstone for the roadmap that we shared. Walters, who is this? Somebody from Square. Oh, Scott, senior designer Scott Walters confirmed this. So Spider-Man is still coming because I believe that was in an initial DLC plans. That was one of the main ones. That being said, Marvel's Avengers War for Wakanda expansion is out as of the time of this recording. It came out a couple of days prior to this recording. And you can play it, and apparently people have, and I'm not sure what the reaction is. I'm kind of staying away from like that so I can play it myself at some point. Also, I believe there's a video out there about his power set, which just goes into that, and there's a article in the show notes about the costumes you can get from this set. And the next article is talking about a villain that shows up, I guess, in here. It's Crossbones, apparently, because I guess Crossbones is going to be in this War for Wakanda DLC, which is, by the way, free if you own Marvel's Avengers. So there you go. And there's some other changes that it's been made to the game in relation or side by side with this. So we get a good look at Crossbones, who's in the DLC. And last but not least, apparently, Marvel's Avengers teases Scarlet Witch in War for Wakanda expansion. This may or may not been a bug. We don't know. But according to this article, Black Panther War for Wakanda is said to be a fresh start for Marvel's Avengers after nearly a year of critical backlash. Expansion puts forth, this is about Black Panther, we already know. But basically, somewhere in there, according to some Reddit, so take that for what it is, some Reddit poster seems to suggest that the Scarlet Witch is an upcoming addition to the game's playable roster. The recent expansion, that being the Black Panther one, introduces Sawavari, a Wakandan mystic who greets the playable character when they approach. However, when approaching as as Thor, this Reddit person said that instead of being greeted by a voice line, they were being greeted by a voice line that seems to address Wanda Maximoff instead. Again, take this for what it is. It's coming off Reddit, so we don't know if this is actually true, or it could have been a bug. Even if it did happen, we don't even know. So yeah, whether Scarlet Witch, which wouldn't be surprised if she did show up in this game, shows up, then that'll be that. We'll see, I guess, if that it ends up being confirmed somewhere. Next up.
Next up, the superhero universe is becoming as diverse as it ever has before. An award-winning graphic novelist Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez is at the center of the new adventure. As always, he's bringing more Latinx representation to the pages of his comic books. we know Miranda Rodriguez as the creator of La Borinqueña, an original superhero character who made her comic book debut in late 2016. She was created as a direct response to the struggles Puerto Ricans were facing after the devastation that Hurricane Maria left behind and the lack of government support. Now, Miranda Rodriguez is releasing the long-awaited third issue of the independently published graphic novel, La Borinqueña #3. He introduces readers to a new superhero team known as the Nitainos and a new Chinese Dominican character, Luz. Okay.
So I did not know there was a volume 2 or 3, or number 2 or 3. So
I didn't know about 2. I did not know about 2. I remember 3. I remember 1. Obviously, I have a copy, but
Same.
I don't know. I don't remember when 2 came out.
Right. Yeah. Neither do I. And I get like stuff from him about this stuff. So I guess I need to have really paying that close of attention to it. I still need to read that copy of 1. Anyway. So hey, cool. Next up. Oh, he also says here in his article, Netflix, let's talk about producing a La Borinqueña TV series starring in all that next cast, shot on location in Puerto Rico. Hey, I'd be down for it. Yeah, that's right. I do remember this because they were trying to get Rosario Dawson to on Twitter to kind of get into a campaign on that to voice the main character, and who I believe she was down with. So. Bite Size Archie is heading to print. If you've been online in the past year, perhaps you've been fortunate enough to come across what is arguably one of the best consequences of social media, Bite Size article, according to this article. The weekly 3 or 4 panel webcomic is written by Archie Comics director of social media and publicity, Ron Case, I guess. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but sorry if I butchered the name. And illustrated by Archie Comics, our art director, editor Vincent Lavallo. And it gives the Riverdale crew the chance to offer a weekly comment on the good, the bad, and the meme-worthy. You can see an example of that in this article. And the article goes on to acknowledge the journey of said thing, but apparently this is all going to print as a digital collection, print collection, and a digital collection on Comixology. April 27th, 2022, and in bookstores on May 17th, 2022. The collection will be 112 pages. So if you know anything about that, then hey, check that out. Next up,
Masters of the Universe, Clash for Eternity reveals new hero and villain preview. So this is a tabletop board game, and on Kickstarter. While we wait for the campaign to launch, Come On, the company behind it, has revealed new previews of its impressive miniatures for the game, including He-Man, Skeletor, Orko, and more. And you can check them all out starting on the page that Roddykat is showing you.
Next up, Avatar Legends becomes the biggest ever tabletop RPG on a Kickstarter after a few days. The Avatar Legends, a role-playing game, launched on Kickstarter on August 3rd, and since become the highest earning tabletop RPG to launch on the platform, as mentioned, after a few days. Kind of not surprising. The officially licensed tabletop RPG by Magpie Games, which is set in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, went live on Kickstarter with a crowdfunding target of $50,000. The game smashed through its initial target in just 16 minutes before raising over $1 million in just the first day on the website. Which, yeah, that doesn't happen that often there. It has raised over $4 million, eclipsing the previously held Kickstarter record for a crowdfunded TTRPG by some margin. And apparently still, yeah, because usually Kickstarters are usually for a month, and it still has, as of this writing, 24 days to go. Well, actually, probably less than that, because this was a few days, probably a couple of weeks back. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you can still go and check it out. The Kickstarter will remain on Kickstarter until September 3rd, where it's pretty much already made what's done and probably got some stretch goals out there. If you are so inclined to check that out. Last but not least, you're muted.
Sorry about that, folks. Vampirella number 25, a wedding issue that sees Vampy married to a reincarnated Count Dracula, will be supersized with extra pages. Previously 32 pages, Vampirella number 25 is now 50 pages, with every additional page devoted to this story. Despite the bump in size, the issue's price of $3.99 will not change. Okay.
That's impressive. And rare.
Yes. Agreed.
Shout out to Priest. Christopher Priest, the writer of Vampirella, which I never checked the name of, even if it is Priest, because the characters. Yeah. Not much of interest to me. Yes, exactly. No, I'm just kidding. So that, folks, is the end of.
Yeah, my yawn was not commentary on Vampirella. My yawn is commentary on the lateness of the hour.
Indeed. And so as we go to wrap up this here Comic Book Chronicles, we have one last ad read.
And you know what happens? You know what I read when I'm tired and it's late. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon.
And as we come to the end of this exciting episode of the Comic Chronicles and the end of my coffee, which is great timing, I would like to thank each and every one of you fine folks for coming out. We appreciate you very much. You can find myself. My name is Roddykat. You can find me at Twitter at Roddykat. You can find me at News and Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. 18_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in. And also probably still on the Vine Replacement Byte under Comic Reviews No Vowels. I'm just going to start saying that because I have no idea whether he's still doing that or not. Tim TOGG98 on Twitter. You the Osiris of this ish. You can also find him at CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter, which is TheKlickNation. Also theclicknation.com. But also first and foremost, you can find him at comicbookresourcescbr.com, where he is writing his face off. And as you may have seen from the video version, they supply some of the articles that we have gone through. Or, he didn't supply it. We got them from him, regardless. You know what I mean. Regardless, you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can find us on your podcast virtual place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. Again, every Thursday night we record live 9:30ish p.m. on youtube.com/theclicknation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Give us a follow on either or both.
Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, and to make sure to hit the notification bell so that you know when we are recording or post something new.
Yeah. And of course, there's our Twitter accounts, where we will say we go live. But regardless, thank you folks for coming out. We got another week of What If coming up, so we'll talk about that next week. I'm actually not sure what is in this next episode, but we'll find out when it happens. This, folks, has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Case 1. Wakanda Forever!